Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's meeting. We'll just take a seat. So here we are again, and I'd like to remind everyone that the meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. A recording of the meeting will be available afterwards on the Council's YouTube channel. In addition, other people may film, record, post on social media, or blog from this meeting. The use of any such images or sound recording is not under the Council's control. Any councillor who wishes to speak should raise their hand and your request will be noted. You'll be asked to speak in turn by me, and then you will turn on your microphone. Once you have finished speaking, would you please turn off your microphone? In respect of voting, when asked by me, councillors should raise their hand to indicate how they wish to vote, and if a recorded call is requested by 4 councillors, councillors' names will be called out alphabetically by the monitoring officer. Please confirm your vote by saying for, against, or abstain. A councillor may raise a point of order or make a personal explanation at any time by raising their hand, and I'll hear them immediately, and my ruling on the matter will be final. During any debate, if I stand up, any councillor speaking at the time must stop and sit down. Everyone in the room must be silent, and I'd also like to remind councillors to ensure that speeches must be directed to the matter under debate only. So we'll just take a slight pause now and to invite Father Tom Merrick to lead us in an opening prayer, please. Just wait a moment. So, Father Tom, thank you.
First, remembering White Ribbon Day. We pray for women and girls who are subject to abuse of any kind, for those experiencing it this day, and those living with the cruel memory of it. May they know your healing and your peace. May there be places of safety which bring comfort and reassurance again. Where trust has been shattered in the human soul, may you gently restore hope. Amen. And in the wake of COP30, and remembering our responsibility in local government for creation, a prayer written by the Bishop of Derby. Eternal God, whose spirit moved over the face of the deep, bringing forth light and life. By that same spirit, renew your creation and restore your image in your people. Turn us from careless tenants to faithful stewards, that your threefold blessing of clean air, pure water, and rich earth may be the inheritance of everything that has the breath of life, and one generation may proclaim to another the wonder of your works. Amen. Minded by the children of Crossdale School of coming Christmas in this dark time of year, a prayer that reminds us of light in Advent and Christmas. Blessed are you, sovereign God, creator of light and darkness, to be glory and praise forever. As evening falls, you renew your promise to reveal among us the light of your presence. Strengthen us in our stumbling weakness and help us to bring light to all who dwell in dark places. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. May God bless you in your deliberations.
Thank you very much, Father Tom. Thank you. Right, so we'll move on to item 1 on the agenda, which is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies, please?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. We've received apologies from the Mayor, Councillor Cotty, Councillor Rex Walker and Councillor Gordon Wheeler. And I'm also sure for Councillor Debbie Solomon, don't think is present. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much. And declarations of interest. Does anyone have any declarations of interest? No. Okay. So we move on to approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 18th of September. Councillor Clark, would you like to move the minutes?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I move those minutes.
Thank you. And Councillor Brennan?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to second the minutes. Deputy Mayor, sorry.
Thank you. And can we have a show of hands all in favour? I think that's unanimous, to be honest. Is there anyone against? And no abstentions. No. Okay. Oh,
That was Councillor Plant abstaining.
oh, sorry, I didn't.
Was
Who
that
was
an
abstaining?
abstention for the? No.
Oh.
No, you were voting
No,
for.
I think
okay.
it's unanimous.
Okay.
Right. So mayor's announcements. I don't, or deputy mayor's announcements. I don't have a great deal to say other than those of us who were here a little while ago saw the children from Crossdale Drive School in Keyworth entertaining us, getting us into the Christmas spirit. Let's hope that's going to stay. I'm sure it will. And but we treated them to some mince pies and chocolates and drinks, and they were absolutely delighted. So they did really, really well. And the only other Christmassy thing to mention is the well done to everyone involved with the West Bridgford lights switching on last Saturday. It was soaking wet underground, but it was dry on the night, and it was lots of people there, lots of stalls, really, really good event. So well done to everybody who's involved in organising that. So we'll move on to leaders' announcements. Councillor Clark, do you have any announcements, please?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. A couple of pleasant announcements to make, which probably a lot of people know. We had an event a week or so ago at the Julian Kahn Pavilion at West Park to help celebrate Nottinghamshire County Cricket Club winning the championship, and also that was combined with a short celebration to open or relaunch the refurbished facilities at the Julian Kahn Pavilion, and very nice they look too. And also the West Bridgford Legion Cricket Club was there as well. The chairman, the chief exec of the cricket club were there, along with all the home team. So it was very well appreciated. They had a little question and answer panel as well. So it was a very pleasant event, and hopefully the Julian Kahn Pavilion will be well used in the future, as it also becomes pretty much the home of the women's cricket for the cricket club as well. So excellent facilities are now there. And the other thing is a really fantastic achievement. The Eastleigh Community Care Association, they've been awarded the King's Award for voluntary service. So that's a very prestigious award, and I'm sure they're all very proud, and fantastic job they do on behalf of the community as well. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Chief Executive, Mr. Hill, do you have any announcements, please?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I have none.
Thank you. Citizens' questions. We don't have any citizens' questions tonight, and we have no petitions either. So we'll move into the first substantive item for this evening, which is the Rushcliffe Borough Council Hackney Carriage and Private Hire Licensing Policy 2025-2030. And I'll ask Councillor Inglis if you'd like to move the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Before we start, I'd like to make a quick amendment to the recommendations. Okay, so under recommendation recommendation B, where it says in respect of the use of CCTV, I'd like to change that to potential mandating of CCTV.
Okay, thank you. And would Councillor Regan, would you like to second the report, please?
Deputy Mayor, yes, I'd like to. I'll move. I second the motion. Thank you. I reserve the right to speak.
Thank you very much. Do we have any speakers on this, please?
Just Councillor English will
oh,
present it.
oh, sorry, Councillor, I beg your pardon. Yes, Councillor English, you need to reintroduce the report. I beg your pardon. Sorry. It threw me the fact you put an amendment in. So.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So this report seeks to endorse a review and update to the Council's 5-year rolling Hackney carriage and private hire licensing policy as provided in Appendix 1. This is a 150-page detailed comprehensive document, so I don't propose to go through each page, but I trust you've all read it as it needs to be considered in its entirety to understand the full context to the highlights in my recommendation and to the Council's legal requirements to have such a policy. Following a 6-week public and industry consultation, which ran between the 2nd of June and the 14th of July, the proposed policy was then considered by the Licensing Committee on the 28th of October. The deliberations and debate during the committee also raised additional matters relating to mandating CCTV in taxis, which I'll come on to later, but concluded with the presented report being agreed, and if agreed tonight, it will replace the current policy, which expires on the 31st of December this year. There have been minor changes during the reign of the current policy through its delegated powers, but some significant changes are now proposed to keep the policy legal, to incorporate government guidance and to reflect the current climate of the taxi industry in Rushcliffe. The overall aim of this revised policy is to address the decline of Hackney capacity, increase efficiency and sustainability by lowering overall costs whilst maintaining the safety of vehicles, drivers and customers, and to encourage new drivers in an effort to restore the numbers we previously had, which will particularly benefit rural parts of the borough where public transport is an issue. It should be noted that the number of Rushcliffe Hackneys are at an all-time low, with only just 7 Hackneys licensed. We had 23 in 2020. We think that's associated with increased vehicle costs and the predominance of other private hires who are offering fast, bespoke pickup services. The full summary of the proposed changes are in Annex 2, but I'll highlight the main updates as in 4.2. The review of the application process is a significant update by addressing drawn-out factors in the current system to introduce a streamlined online route for driver applications to be determined. It's also introduced a 1-year licence to reduce the upfront costs for encouraging new drivers rather than a 3-year commitment. It will also allow drivers to work for more than one Rushcliffe operator, which is currently not permitted. In line with neighbouring councils and the requirements of many operators, a requisite for a local knowledge test and language test will be conducted through a Green Penny test. And Green Penny, if nobody knows what that is, it's a specialist training provider that provides training for over 90 councils in the UK for Hackney and private hire drivers, including assessments for disability, awareness, safeguarding and knowledge testing. So extending the life of licensed vehicles, which are currently accepted up to 12-year-olds and up to 14-year-olds for specially adapted vehicles. That will now change to allow the licence renewals up to 15 years, but new applications will be limited to 8. It also includes an exemption for zero-emission vehicles and SEND disability vehicles in recognition of their importance to the fleet and comes in line with neighbouring councils and removing the unnecessary double MOT tests. The relaxation of the requirements of the Hackney to be exclusively the black London style cab. This is again for encouragement for the drivers and owners against the high and prohibitive purchase costs of such vehicles. This is a great further incentive to help expand the Hackney cover across the whole borough. Rushcliffe operates a penalty point system to raise awareness of the operators, owners and drivers, to assist in the enforcement conditions attached to their licences and some aspects of the provisions of the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act of 1976. To meet the current institute licence standards, the trigger level will remain at 12 points, but over a rolling 3-year period rather than the 12 months currently, as is with the DVLL licence point system. It will promote policy compliance over a greater period. Financial implications to the council are covered in 7.1, but the council aims to maintain a cost neutral position on the administration of the tax licensing function over a 3-year rolling period. And these changes bring potential for reduced administration costs, which will now be fully considered during the fee setting process. I think I've outlined the major points in the revised policy, which I trust you will all accept. I'd also like to put on record which we recognise and praise for the excellent work that Jeff Carpenter and his team undertaking taxi licensing and enforcement and in this policy review. And yes, I've seen the panic on drivers' faces when Dave Roberts runs down in taxi checks. I'll come to the consideration for mandatory CCTV now. Although this is not part of the policy review, the subject was discussed in detail at October's licensing seminar for all Nottingham authorities, including a legally based CCTV to mandate or not to mandate presentation from the King's Chamber and subsequently considered at chief executive levels across the county. It is very much recognised that nationally taxi licensing legislation is outdated. It needs a major national overhaul. It needs new regulations and legislation to bring uniformity and consistency for every authority. It needs the basis of locally based licensed drivers, operators and vehicles. We see taxis from other authorities, one in particular, Wolverhampton, who overwhelmingly outnumber our own licensed vehicles in Rushcliffe, and to which we have no policy or control over. Would you believe there are 27 Wolverhampton registered drivers for every street in Wolverhampton, and they have in the region of 22,500 licensed taxis that work right across the country, against Rushcliffe's total of 326. I know that I want, and I'm confident that is echoed across the chamber and with our residents, in that we want Rushcliffe taxis in Rushcliffe. Taxis and driver that are under control of a locally developed policy, not one off the shelf from wherever. Quite rightly, the government has stated that a national taxi review is the forefront of their ambition. It is a priority and a broad commitment which is currently under consideration. Simon Lightwood MP, Parliamentary Under Secretary of State, Minister of Roads and Buses, stated in July this year, in response to Baroness Casey's report on group-based child sexual exploitation and abuse, the government has committed to legislate and address the important issues raised, tackling the inconsistent standards of taxing private hire vehicles and driving licensing. We will work as quickly as possible to consider all the options, including national standards, seeking the best outcomes for passenger safety, and that includes CCTV vehicles, which will naturally be explored as part of these considerations. So this is good news, but frustratingly, the time frames are not known. But it is a live action, as confirmed with the conversation I had yesterday with James Nace MP from Rushcliffe. All the Nottinghamshire authorities have not dismissed, but have concluded that mandating CCTV must be a national policy to have the desired effect in addressing the many issues the industry has. But realistically, will any government decision be made before the LGR changes are finalised? I suspect not, but I hope so. But we're Rushcliffe. We want the best and the safest environment in our taxi fleet for our residents and visitors sooner rather than later. Safeguarding is paramount. We're proud in currently promoting the White Ribbon Awareness campaign and accredited to it. We support the campaign for violence against women and girls. I thank you all who are wearing your white ribbon tonight in support of the addressing the violence and behaviour and traits of men against women. So let's take this forward with positive action in protecting them further. We want our drivers to be protected as well. They are also subject to abuse, violence and threats. So waiting for an unknown future date is not addressing the concerns and the benefits of a CCTV system can provide. We can start that process now. During the October Rushcliffe Licensing Committee, which I did watch live, the subject of mandatory CCTV was raised and well debated, but it needed direction. So I thank Councillor Carys Thomas for her pragmatic approach during the meeting to have a period for a review into this matter which is to be completed as soon as possible within the next 12 months, in order to bring a detailed report back to the licensing committee in relation to the consideration of mandating CCTV in the taxis in Rushcliffe. This was seconded by Councillor Debbie Solomon, and it was moved. This has been included in the recommendations. The review will incorporate the required evidence data gathering, ensuring legal compliance to the many rules and regulations, along with the statutory public consultations. This is so vitally important this is completed before any application for a mandatory CCTV scheme to be successful. It cannot be done in any quicker way. The review includes engagement with any support that I can offer to our drivers and operators with encouragement to implement a voluntary CCTV scheme to shortcut the national process as soon as possible. It will include all the same to all the operators who have taxis working within Rushcliffe. I've requested regular offer updates to be provided to our licence committee during the review period. The first one will be within 3 months. There's no one in this room that's more passionate than myself into safety on our roads and safety for passengers and drivers. We need to be united. This is our residents, this is our family, our friends that we're wanting to protect. By supporting together, we can do this. So I ask you all to support what are realistic and achievable actions that are now moved to recommend in section 9 of the report. As on the board. Do you want me to read them? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Inglis. Now we can open it up to for other councillors to speak. And Councillor Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and thanks to the members opposite for bringing this recommendation this evening, especially Councillor Inglis and Councillor Reagan, who are proposing and seconding it. It's a crucial requirement for us to have an effective and efficient licensing regime and policy for Hackney carriage and private hire vehicles in Rushcliffe. So it's clearly an important issue, and we absolutely support the adoption of CCTV within this vital service industry for the safety and security of both drivers and customers, as Councillor Inglis has outlined. Overall, we feel that the Borough is adopting a sensible approach here, and therefore it is our intention to support the recommendations brought before us this evening. The Council is faced with a tricky balancing act. The lack of a national regulatory framework for CCTV schemes in private hire and Hackney carriages, and the ability of operators, as outlined in the case of Wolverhampton, to operate wherever they like, meaning that if the Borough implements a mandatory CCTV scheme, it may simply encourage operators to license elsewhere, which would only add to the existing problem of the already extremely low numbers of licensed vehicles in the Borough relative to other councils, and the resulting lack of democratic oversight of the private hire vehicles and Hackney carriages operating in Rushcliffe. Let us be clear, we want to make taxis and Hackney carriages safe, as I say, for drivers and for passengers, and I'll reiterate that the Labour Group does fully support the introduction of CCTV schemes in all vehicles licensed by the Borough Council. At this point, I was going to read a quote about the government, but as Councillor Inglis has read it out word for word, we must have got the same source. I don't think I'll bother. But it's basically that reiterating that point around the government wanting to look at it and explore these options. So the fact is the current regime and rules prevent this council from addressing the issue alone. And therefore, the appeal to national government to remind them of this commitment that they've made is critical and a welcome recommendation that has come from members of licensing committee. We must also consider the importance of developing Rushcliffe's homegrown licensed taxi and private hire industry, both for the increased democratic oversight, as I've said, but also supporting the growth of local taxi and private hire businesses, contributing to economic development, whilst also ensuring the availability of vehicles for hire in every part of the borough as well. Many of my colleagues representing rural wards will know the difficulties we face in getting taxis with the same convenience that's perhaps enjoyed by our counterparts that represent areas of the Nottingham conurbation and suburban settlements within Rushcliffe. So we need safe and secure taxis with CCTV, but we also need a local and effective taxi industry supported by a balanced licensing policy. So the main thrust then of the recommendation is sound, and we agree with all 5 of those points. We would just though like to propose a small amendment, an additional point F, which has appeared miraculously there on the board. An additional point F, where did I get to? Worded as seen on the screen. This is an issue that is simultaneously both local and national, and we need to understand the views of businesses and taxi drivers operating in Rushcliffe, as well as the views of organisations such as the National Private Hire and Taxi Association, NUFTA, and other bodies representing drivers, such as the GMB Trade Union and the IWGB Union's Private Hire Drivers section, which represents most Uber drivers as well. So we therefore are proposing the following around consultation. I will just read it. It is recommended that council consults with licensed operators and drivers in the borough and industry representative groups and driver trade unions more broadly to gain insights into developing and implementing the most effective CCTV schemes. This consultation will allow the borough to best prepare for the proposed review in 12 months' time, point B, and be primed for any forthcoming changes in policy or CCTV scheme practices. It also demonstrates to both residents and businesses that the council is keen to take a collaborative approach, listening to the views of key stakeholders in these important matters. I therefore submit the amendment for your consideration this evening. Thank you. And I do have a seconder before you ask me. She's over there.
Thank you, Councillor Grocott. Well, funnily enough, I was just about to ask you, do you have a seconder for your amendment? So, Councillor
Yeah, I'm happy to second. I haven't got a lot to say, but I'll reserve my right to say it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, Councillor Inglis has moved for the original motion. Do you accept this amendment?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, and I'd like to thank Councillor Grocott for sharing this with us this morning. For his courtesy for doing that, so we can debate it and agree that, not take up meeting time for it. And yes, we do agree with it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So we now can move into discussion debate. I've got a list of speakers, and the first one is Councillor Chewings.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'm not going to speak on the motion at this moment in time. However, due to the amendment, I wish to declare that I'm a trade union rep for the RMT, a transport union with representativities for taxi drivers. However, the matter under debate does not directly impact on the finances or well-being of my interest. I am satisfied that I can approach my decision making with an open mind.
Thank you, Councillor Chewings. So that was Councillor Chewings' declaration of interest, which I think is clear. So other speakers, we have Councillor Della, please.
I just wanted to speak against point B, because I don't agree with voluntary or mandatory CCTV in Hackney carriages at all. At present, the voluntary opportunity to have CCTV is in the council policy. And I felt this review was an opportunity to actually remove that from the policy. The officers are clear that there are no problems around that require CCTV at the moment. I mean, one of the officers there was actually saying of the 8 or 9 years he's been involved in taxis, there's only been one incident that CCTV might have been useful for. And if we bring in CCTV, it's a cost to the department. We'd be in charge of managing the data, and it's a cost to the drivers. The information from the CCTV could only be used by the police, and the police are not asking for this information. They've not communicated to us that there's a problem, and there's no evidence that this would actually keep people any safer. And you're also starting to intrude on other residents' rights not to be videoed in taxis. That, you know, they may feel very differently about having CCTV in there. This currently hasn't been mandated by government, and if the government did mandate it, we could then come back to this and look at it again. But I don't think that having a mandate to mandatory CCTV would help the taxis in our area. We'd lose people to Wolverhampton, has been mentioned, and so I cannot support the idea of a mandatory CCTV in Hackney carriages. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Della. And Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I apologise for my late arrival. The A52 is absolutely chocker. Okay, so I'm really pleased that the committee has agreed to review the position within 12 months and explore mandatory CCTV for Rushcliffe licensed vehicles. But I stand by the view I set out in committee that by not mandating CCTV now, we have not made our taxis as safe as they could be for either passengers or drivers. I think we've missed an opportunity, but I'm glad we're reviewing it. We do have a voluntary scheme, and I believe we've had that for some while, but I understand the uptake on that remains zero. So that clearly shows that a voluntary approach will not work. So if we genuinely believe, as I do, that CCTV is a safeguarding measure and the evidence overwhelmingly supports this, then it must be mandated. So residents I've spoken to, especially younger people and women, have all said they would feel safer if journeys were recorded, and CCTV protects drivers too from false allegations, disputes and late night working. There have sadly been serious cases across the country, and there is evidence. And I want to highlight 2 recent cases right here in Nottingham that have shown exactly why CCTV is necessary. So in November 24, taxi driver Imran Yazim was jailed for 16 months after pleading guilty to 3 counts of sexual assault. He pleaded guilty because the evidence was irrefutable. His own dash cam, installed ironically to protect himself, but it recorded him sexually assaulting a female passenger. So there is evidence. PC Tom Gregory said, "This was an opportunistic assault on a vulnerable female passenger. The victim put her trust in him to take her home, and he utterly abused that trust. Thanks to the evidence on his own dash cam, he had little option but to plead guilty, and now will spend a significant amount of time in prison." I'll give you one more example. In Nottingham, in May 25, Zahir Hussain was jailed after being convicted of assaulting 2 young women who had been his passengers. He had already admitted perverting the course of justice for trying to sabotage this case against him. But how was he caught attempting this? CCTV footage. These disturbing cases underline the simple truth. CCTV protects victims, protects the public, and protects the integrity of investigations. And as a magistrate, I can assure you that the value of CCTV evidence is undeniable. So while I welcome the review within a year, I believe Rushcliffe should lead rather than follow. Yes, the government should mandate CCTV nationally, and I absolutely support writing to the Secretary of State, but we do not have to wait for Westminster to do what is right. The disproportionate number of taxis that are licensed, 96% are licensed in Wolverhampton, the Ubers. So I did submit a motion for this council, but it was rejected because I understood there was one already in place. And then just before the agenda was published, I understand that that motion was removed. But I do want to make, not the whole motion, but I would like to submit an amendment on one specific part. I apologise that I haven't given you foresight of this. It's just one small bit. You want me to bring it?
Just bear with us while we're just checking the procedure as much as anything. So. Given this is a slightly unusual situation, and we'll just need to take a few moments adjournment just to check the procedure legalities and so on. So we'll just take a
Just
couple
a
of minutes
pop on.
break.
Let's do it.
Okay, colleagues, I think we've had it long enough now. People are getting a little bit anxious to continue. So I think we're all back in the room. Yep. So thank you for your indulgence there. We've had an amendment moved by Councillor Solomon, which officers have declared is a valid amendment to be debated. So Councillor Solomon, do you have a seconder for this motion? So
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I do have a seconder. It's Councillor Thomas.
Councillor Thomas. Councillor Thomas, do you wish to speak yet, or you reserve the right to speak? So what we can do now is put. Yes, I was just going to say what we're about to do is to put the motion up on the. No, we are about to put the motion up on, or the amendment to, or the addition to the motion put on the screen. So we have it in front of us. And I think, given that it is an addition to a recommendation, I think we might, in the fairness for everyone who's only seen this for the first time, is reading it, and then I think we will have to take another short adjournment for colleagues to come to an opinion, and then we'll reconvene the meeting. So. Councillor Solomon, you've added this amendment. Do you wish to speak to it now, bearing in mind you have approximately 45 seconds of your 5 minutes left to do so?
Yes, I will be very, very quick. This was just part of the original motion I submitted. So I'm just really happy to just submit this part because it is very specific. 96% of the taxi licensing in the UK is Uber. It's done by Wolverhampton City Council. And I think if we encourage them to do the right thing and mandate CCTV, that solves 96% of the problem, and they can move much quicker than the government on making some positive progress on this. So that's why I would like people to support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Solomon. Well, we've got the addition in front of us. We've heard from Councillor Solomon Mover. I think we need now just to take a short adjournment for colleagues to digest it, take it in. So can I suggest a 5-minute adjournment to do just that?
Not really.
Okay, can we take our seats, please? Need to get on. Time's running out. So thank you for your forbearance. Councillor Inglis, do you accept the addition?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Yeah, we accept it as a valid amendment, but we are going to reject it. I think it's something that, taking the lead, I think that's something we're trying to do. I can't see how we can sort of dictate to another council to take mandatory when it's something we're only looking at this moment in time. You know, we're applying a huge cost onto that city of Wolverhampton. If it's mandatory, they'll have to become the data controllers for it, and data controllers for 22,500 taxi vehicles is one big ask. It's something the government's already doing. Councillor Solomon's alluded to it, it's 97% of the taxis in England. The government are doing that. I think we need to focus on what we're doing. And I think in the report we did say we are going to engage and encourage these other operators that are working in Rushcliffe to engage with us, to explain what we're trying to do and try and encourage them to do the same, especially those that are working in Rushcliffe. So I appreciate Councillor Solomon's passion and a drive to do this, but I think this is wrong for us to do, and we're on that basis.
So thank you. To clarify, are you accepting the amendment or not?
We accept it as a valid amendment, but we're rejecting it. No, rejecting it.
So you are not accepting the amendment. Okay, thank you. Councillor Thomas, you moved the amendment. You seconded the amendment. Do you reserve your right to speak? Do you wish to speak to this amendment?
I reserve my right to speak to the amendment.
Now is your chance to speak.
No.
Oh, is it not? Oh, okay, right. Thank you. Thank you. So we can now open up the I'm glad you find it amusing, Councillor Solomon. We'll open it up for debate now, or just on this section of on this amendment. So does anyone wish to speak on this amendment? Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I think this takes away some of the flavour of the intended recommendations in the report, because the important aspect is that we are requesting the government to mandate CCTV across the entire country. Therefore, to write to Wolverhampton and to just because they're the largest, or one of the largest licensing authorities, you know, what I appreciate that they're the biggest user of the borough of Rushcliffe at the moment, or at least the drivers that are licensed by them. But the plain fact is that we need to be getting the government to actually mandate CCTV, and just writing to Wolverhampton Council, who will say, "Thank you very much for your letter. It's noted." You know, it's not going to achieve anything. It's not going to achieve what we want to achieve, which is that we want to safeguard our passengers in our taxis. In fact, Councillor Solomon herself detailed the reasons and those cases that she gave as examples. They're good reasons why we need to be concentrating on mandating CCTV across the country. So when even in earlier comments from the Labour group, they said they weren't in favour of mandating unilaterally. So it's important that we really do concentrate on the mandating across the country. And even in a conversation, I was in that same conversation with James Naish MP yesterday evening, and he is happy to be pushing the government and pushing forward with encouraging the mandating across the country. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Would anyone else like to speak on this amendment? No? Okay, so councillor Thomas, you reserved your right to speak. Would you now like to speak to it, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think there's quite a lot of things going on here. I think one of the big problems is that you can license a taxi anywhere and operate anywhere. It would be a lot, the provisions would be a lot stronger if the taxis that were operating from Rushcliffe were licensed in Rushcliffe. And I think that's one of the things that we can't address, we're not addressing here, but I think that that's one of the important points. As things stand, the taxis will license where it's cheapest and where the regulations are easiest to comply with, perhaps. So it's a bit of a race to the bottom, really, in that they all will all gravitate to the lowest denominator, as it were. So reaching out to Wolverhampton would have several benefits as far as that is concerned. They are the biggest, and any conversations that they would have about mandating CCTV would raise the profile considerably. Even if they debated it and decided not to make it mandatory, it would draw out all the issues concerned. And I don't think, Councillor Clark, that this would weaken the approach to the government. I think everybody agrees that if there are going to be regulations on these, they need to be across the country, not least because the taxis that are licensed in one place can operate anywhere. So they do need to be nationwide, and I quite agree with that. But I don't think there's anything. I think engaging Wolverhampton in debate on the issue would be valuable just to raise the profile of the debate. Whichever way you think it ought to go, I think that would you know, draw out those issues in a bigger forum, really, because they operate more taxis. So I think that's what I want to say.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Now, Councillor Solomon, you moved the amendment. Would you like to, well, you've got a right to reply to the comments, so the floor is yours if you'd like it.
Okay, I'm rather surprised that this amendment has been rejected by the Conservative group. It's simply writing a letter to highlight the issue. It causes no harm. It is not a negative on Rushcliffe Borough Council whatsoever. It is a way of formally recognising that we want to do the right thing, but Wolverhampton hold the power and the sway in this issue. And if we can encourage them to do the right thing, or at least highlight it, like Councillor Thomas has said, that can only be a good thing. I do not understand the position of that there are any negatives from simply writing to Wolverhampton to consider this, to have the debate, because every time we delay CCTV coming in, it creates more opportunity for another victim. Councils can move quicker than government, and I think we should do all that we can to try and do the right thing and safeguard as many vulnerable people getting in a taxi late as night as we can. So I would hope that people would just support this amendment to simply write a letter to Wolverhampton to ask them to consider putting CCTVs in their taxis. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Solomon. Councillor Inglis, you, the mover of the original motion, you have a right to reply to this amendment if you wish to.
Thank you. I think I said this one up just to on the original amendment. So I don't know if there's anything further to say, really. You know, yes, Wolverhampton are big. If we just say, yeah, we're going to mandate CCTV now, then that's illegal. You can't do that. You know, the way we're doing it is in this review is to look at that evidence, look at the legislation. There's a huge amount of legislation for that. That needs to be overcome and addressed. So I think we're doing the right thing with the review and the engagement with all the others. And it's Gavin, it's Broxtowe, it's Sheffield, South Yorkshire, and all others that we're engaging with, not just Wolverhampton. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Inglis. Well, we now need to take a vote for the amendment that we've just been discussing. So we need to have a show of hands, please. Those, and we're just talking about to be clear, just this amendment in red that we're talking about at the moment. So show of hands, those in favour, please. And those against? Okay, any abstentions? Yes. So just for the record, I've got the numbers there. So for the record, the votes were 7 in favour of this amendment, 21 against and 11 abstentions. So the amendment falls. We now go back to the substantive motion, and we did have some speakers who had indicated to speak, so we'll start again on that now. So it's Councillor Thomas, and we're now speaking on the substantive motion that we started this with.
Thank you very much. I'd like to commend the work that the licensing team has done to revise the policy. At the licensing committee meeting, their deep understanding of the complexities of taxi licensing was apparent, along with the care and consideration that they give to the matter, and they deserve our wholehearted thanks for the work that they do in this area. I'm pleased that the proposed actions will be taken to move forward with exploring. Well, please, the recommendation is for proposed actions to be taken forward to explore mandatory CCT, as well as encouraging it on a voluntary basis. It can improve safety for both passengers and drivers, but there are implications, as everybody's saying, that need to be considered before making it mandatory for vehicles licensed in Rushcliffe. My thanks to Councillor Inglis for the constructive discussion on this prior to the meeting. But I just reiterate my points really, that the nonsense is that it's licensing requirements and not nationwide, that they're at the discretion of councils. I think the thing about reviewing the mandatory CCTV, I take the point about everybody's concerns about it, but the point about reviewing it is that the review could decide either way about making it mandatory. But what it will do, will find out what the issues are and brief everyone. So we do need the work to be done, and a report and a decision to be taken in due course. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Next speaker is Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I fully support Rushcliffe Borough Council Hackney carriage and private hire licensing policy, especially that we send a letter to the Secretary of State for Transport requesting government take action to mandate CCTV provision within taxi and private hire vehicles nationally. I do not see a problem with this. Excuse me. In fact, from a business perspective, having cameras would encourage punters and make them feel safer. They would also help with the security of the driver, possibly deterring being robbed or attacked. These days, CCTV are fitted to most kinds of public transport. However, I would like to see that all private hire applications to include a mandatory practical driving assessment for private hire drivers. Here at Rushcliffe, this is part of the application process, but not at all local authorities, such as Wolverhampton. They don't require this. So ever wondered why there are so many Wolverhampton Uber drivers? Now you know. There are even websites to advise applicants how to obtain a license from Wolverhampton. Excuse me. Members may remember that I ran a driving school for 8 years until retirement. Myself, as a fully qualified fleet ADI, did practical driving taxi practical assessments. Not all applicants were successful, and some drivers required further advanced tuition before reapplying. Most local authorities also require an applicant to have held a full UK licence for 12 months. No problem if that driver has gained 12 months driving experience, but not all have. I can give you many examples of people passing their test and going off to uni for 3 years or elsewhere, and have never driven since passing their vehicle, but their licence is still valid and if they wish, they could apply for a private hire license. Would you be happy with this person driving a member of your family around? I know I wouldn't be. So I would like to see that all local authorities across the UK have the same requirements for the issue of taxi licenses, including mandatory practical driving assessment, as well as the same vehicle inspection, check times and age of vehicles, etc. This is just as important as safeguarding as having CCTV in all cabs. So whether you apply in Rushcliffe, Leeds, Wolverhampton, the application criteria are identical across the UK. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brown and Councillor Polenta.
I will support the amendment. It's just going to caveat a bit. Cameras record hard, but they don't necessarily prevent it. Prevention comes from investment in youth services, in community infrastructure, in lighting, in nighttime transport, and a culture that rejects social racism, misogyny, and the neglect of vulnerable children. As it was mentioned in the appendix we are given by the NCC, I would like to briefly state my take on the J report, because what it exposed was a system that disbelieved predominantly vulnerable young girls, dismissed them as lads, and ignored the expertise on frontline workers. You have the situations where victims were blamed from their own abuse by officials. But it was one agency that consistently stood apart, and that was Risky Business, a non-statutory youth work project rooted in the community. They were the ones that raised the concerns long before authorities were willing to act. In the J report, they were characterized by social service managers as nuisance, precisely because they took children seriously, and that epitomized that safety can be guaranteed by community. We can guarantee the safety of ourselves. I agree that the lessons of Alex J's inquiry and Baroness Casey's review must be at the forefront of our thinking. And what it shows is that when institutions ignore frontline staff, when oversight replaces accountability, and when the lived experience of vulnerable people are shut out, then they are the children, the most vulnerable ones, that they pay the price. But we have to remember that child abuse and gender-based violence that was mentioned is not a private matter, and it cannot only be dealt by punitive system. It is systemic, and it is shaped by patriarchal attitudes, by social racism, by austerity, by cut to welfare and youth services. So yes, I agree, safety matters deeply. But safety does not predominantly and only come from surveillance. It comes from resources, it comes from solidarity, it comes from our community, it comes from accountability. So I do welcome that before deciding on mandatory CCTV in taxis or not, that we are going to begin with the democratic principle that policies that affect workers must be shaped with and alongside workers and the community. Taxi drivers, many of them they already, as mentioned before, they already face harassment, they face assault, they can face false accusation, and passengers refusing paying fares. Meanwhile, I do agree that on taxis, on public transports, and on the street, women, young, unsupported and unaccompanied children, disabled passengers, they may face real risk, especially at night. So we cannot ignore any of this. That is why consultation with the trade unions and other collectives is not optional, and it is essential. Unions recognize that CCTV can deter attacks and provide evidence when harm occurs, but they also know how easily surveillance can be misused from other experience, to monitor workers during breaks, to track behavior beyond working hours, to discipline drivers for issues unrelated to safety. Footage may even be used against victims, reinforcing stereotypes about behavior, language, or appearance. What begins as protection may easily turn to its opposite. So safeguards are essential. Systems that collect more data than they need can still fail to protect vulnerable people. That is why consultation is essential, and we must secure fairness and accountability, clear rule of what is recorded, who can view footage, how long is stored, and robust protections against performance management misuse. But we must also recognize as well, as the JRU has highlighted, that there is another path that strengthens safety, and that is community-based reporting. systems that allow passengers and drivers to report harm without going through the police or private operators and without fear of disbelief or retaliation. They can be used alongside, and we should explore them, like third-party reporting hubs, like driver-led systems to record arises of violent passengers, like anonymous encrypting reporting tools.
30 seconds
like rapid response. Okay, so yes, so I will be voting for that motion, and I would like to say yes, that we need to work with women's organizations, we send advocates, safeguarding NGOs, trade unions, drivers, and children safety, and build conditions for real safety for all, having as our compass that safety comes through solidarity and collective care.
Thank you, Councillor Polenta. I've got 4 more speakers on this, and that's before we sum up. And the next speaker is Councillor Richard Mallender.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yeah, it's a difficult issue to sort of unpick because we are limited to what we can do as a local authority, and we are well aware of all the issues around Wolverhampton and sort of cross-border licensing and CCTV. Within the Green Group, we support this recommendation. We support the Amendment F that was put in at the end, and the consultation with trade unions and industry representative groups. It is interesting to note that in July, the Transport Committee actually launched an inquiry into a lot of the work around taxi licensing, particularly around the cross-border aspect of it. And they have been having ongoing consultations and work all the way through. It doesn't specifically mention CCTV in the work they're doing, but they are looking about changes to the practical use of way of that implementation of licensing goes ahead, what kind of reforms there might be, whether or not it will include some kind of safeguarding to make taxi use safer for the people in the taxis who are riding as a passenger and for the drivers as well. So I think it's good that that work is actually going on at a national level. And, you know, even if we're not actually writing to Wolverhampton or writing to the minister about it, or whatever, we are actually aware that there is work going on. Wolverhampton actually gave oral evidence to the committee in October this year. There's a lot of other organisations involved as well, including ones that are the unions and the various industry groups too. They were taking evidence, so we've kind of missed the boat a little bit on this because that part of the inquiry is now closed. And the next bit will be a private meeting on the 3rd of December, which I'm sure will include some kind of cakes and Christmas things in the Thatcher Room in Portcullis House, if anybody wants to sort of sit on it. So I'm happy to support this recommendation. Glad that there is work going on locally and nationally to make the whole sort of experience of using taxis much safer and happier one for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mallender. And Councillor Birch, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I disagree with this motion entirely. I would have agreed up to item B, but where it's sending a letter to request the government takes action, that's where I disagree. And I disagree mainly on privacy grounds. And I agree wholeheartedly with what Councillor Della said. I think it's an infringement on civil liberties, and I'm very surprised that a Conservative administration is proposing this and actually reform as well at the County Council. Also, it's burdensome on businesses, and my understanding is we're looking at approximately £600 worth of spend required by businesses to install this, and if we make it mandatory, we're imposing a cost on businesses which I think is obscene. You know, the seconder of this motion runs a wonderful restaurant, and it would be analogous, in my view, if you had a camera at every table, which I think would be, you know, an infringement on your privacy. I don't see the difference. Of course, we all want everyone to be safe. We've heard the Jay and the Casey report invoked today. I'm very familiar with that. I've actually been speaking out on the issues surrounding that for many years. The underlying cause of the abuse there, one of the main drivers was actually the inability of the local authority to take any action for political correctness reasons. It wasn't taxis. Taxis are incidental to it. The abuse took place in hotels and other places. The taxis were an incidental part of it. Having CCTV in the taxis, I don't think would have made a big difference. But people are going to be using these taxis to get from hospital and medical appointments, from private places. And yes, I think the ICO says that there should be no audio recordings. But of course, there is then the infrastructure installed in these vehicles for audio to be recorded. I think it's a massive infringement on civil liberties, so I will be voting against. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Birch, and Councillor Chewings.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I disagree with my colleague, actually. I will be voting in favour of this. We sat at the Licence Committee on the 28th of October and we debated this at great length. I went through many facts and figures. I'm going to go through a couple of things first, but first of all, we've got 7 Hackney carriages in Rushcliffe. 7 Hackney carriages, absolute low level. With regards to private hires, again, 317 private hires, and that means that not only got taxes in here, but they're using other licensing authorities and they're coming in place. And that's why it is important that we have a structure in place that makes sure if we are moving forward and making changes, that we're asking for it to be done on a national level. And I agree with the letter to go to the Transport Secretary to request this for the mandation of the CCTV provisions. I've got a question for Councillor Inglis. We're going to pull up as a point of order, but if you could sum it up at the end of this motion, just to clarify some point. When he was speaking at the end of the amendment, and it might be my hearing, but I think Councillor Inglis said that it would be illegal to mandate on the use of CCTV. So there's some clarity in his response to that, because we do have 22 authorities already in the country out of 249 that has mandated CCTV. So it is out there, it is allowed. So I asked that question. Come back to Wolverhampton, 26% of all private hires, Hackney carriages, is Wolverhampton backed. There's a reason for that. I think that's something to note. I want to talk about CCTV now. I work in the transport industry. I work in the railway. Now I represent members, and I will use this as an example. CCTV does have a drastic effect in reduction of violence against staff, violence against passengers, and it does have an effective place. And in fact, as a union, my union actually is going to dispute at my employer on this very issue yesterday because there's insufficient CCTV and part of that for the violence. So I think for me, it's recognising that issue around CCTV is such an important matter, and it's not for just one side of the driver's seat. It was for both sides, because it adds clarity of what's happened when there's allegations made. Imagery will show what's happened. It will back up an allegation or it will disprove an allegation. And that might be a customer making a complaint, or it may be a taxi driver that's making a complaint against a passenger for abuse, for assaults. It could be either way. And I think it should happen. But I accept that if we was to put this into just Rushcliffe, people would walk away and go to another neighbouring licensing authority, and it defeats the object. So that's why it needs to be the government that mandates this and takes across all licensing authorities to make sure it's on a level playing field. So I ask people to vote for this today. I certainly will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chewings. Councillor Parekh.
Last weekend, I was indulging myself in a rare child-free night out with my girlfriends. After 3 cocktails and dancing on ABBA hits, at midnight, I was shattered. And I became conscious that if I don't go back home now, I would be struggling for the entire weekend. So I decided to take a cab home. But before that, I wanted to do some research at the taxi rank in Hockley, where there were several taxis standing. I did not go to an app to get a specific Rushcliffe taxi, as it was easier just to catch a Hackney from town. I'm proud to say that even at midnight, I was committed towards my duty and wanted to prepare for this debate and present facts. So I checked the license plates of 8 taxis, and they were all Nottingham City Council taxis and not Wolverhampton. Out of the 8, the first few didn't have CCTV cameras. So I decided not to catch the cab, not because I felt unsafe, but because I wanted to continue my research with CCTV in taxis. So I caught the 4th taxi. He had a CCTV camera. I had a lovely light-hearted chat with the taxi driver for the entire 13 minutes of my journey about CCTVs and how they're important for both customers and taxi drivers. However, today we must confront a difficult fact. Putting CCTV cameras inside taxis does not automatically make women safer. It may sound like a simple solution, a camera in every cab, a recording of every journey, but the truth is far more complex. Because unless these cameras are part of a national, standardized and properly enforced system, they only offer a veneer of safety, not the substance of it. When CCTV is controlled only at a local or borough level, we create a fragmented system. The reality is that women do not travel within the administrative boundaries. Their journeys across towns, cities, and boroughs, yet the cameras that are supposed to protect them do not. Footage may be stored differently in different areas. Access rules may vary. Some systems are monitored, some are not. Some recordings are kept long enough to be useful. Others are wiped before a report can even be filed. In this fragmented patchwork, accountability becomes unreliable and perpetrators rely on that inconsistency. And we know CCTV alone does not stop crime. Across the UK, evidence shows that whilst cameras can help investigations after an assault or a crime, they rarely prevent an attack in the moment. Countless crimes, including harassment, assault, and sexual violence, have taken place inside vehicles that did have cameras, because a camera cannot intervene. A camera cannot protect a woman who is trapped in a moving vehicle with someone who intends to harm her. And I've got an example. Ian Phillips in Sunderland turned off the in-taxi CCTV camera before picking up a vulnerable passenger. After disabling the camera, he raped her. He was charged and sentenced. In 2025, a case involving Emmanuel Mebratu in Cardiff shows that even with CCTV footage of routes and other data, violent assault can and does happen. He was convicted for sexually assaulting 2 women he had picked up in his taxi. Even the numbers reflect this reality. Research shows that CCTV is far more effective at reducing property crime than violent crime. Violent and sexual offences, the very crimes women fear the most, violent and sexual offences, the very crimes women fear the most in taxis, show no consistent reduction when CCTV is introduced. Cameras often help collect evidence after the fact, but they do not reliably deter offenders who believe they won't be caught. And without national oversight, they may be right. A taxi driver who harms a woman in one borough can continue in another where the CCTV rules are different. So let's be clear, CCTV in taxis can be a useful tool, but only when it functions with a strong, unified national framework. Only when every camera works the same way, stores footage the same way, is accessed with the same safeguards, and is backed by authorities who are trained, accountable, and transparent. Until then, we must not pretend that a patchwork of cameras will keep women safe. I wholeheartedly support this motion today.
Thank you, Councillor Perrick, bang on time, and well done for combining duty with pleasure with ABBA. We still have 3 speakers left, plus a summing up, and the next speaker is Councillor Brennan, please.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I agree with so much that's been said today, and I don't want to extend the conversation. I mean, the points that Councillor Perrick made and Councillor Chewings made about the pros and cons of CCTV, I think that we bear them all in mind when we think about this issue. I strongly support the mandating of CCTV in taxis, regardless of its flaws, the fact that it may be inconsistent, the fact that it isn't going to necessarily stop the problem, but might provide evidence after the fact. I don't care about that. I do care about the safety of women and children and women and girls, and I appreciate the argument that it also protects the driver. That's good, that's fine, but let's be realistic, especially today when we're talking about violence against women and girls, that they are the majority of victims and those that are most likely to be protected by CCTV for all the flaws it may have. And I do get sick and tired of women's safety and safeguarding being sacrificed on the altar of there's not enough evidence. No women have been raped in Rushcliffe yet. No women have been assaulted in Rushcliffe yet in a taxi. No women have been sexually assaulted, so we don't need to bother. I don't buy the argument about privacy. I accept it. It's in my heart. We should be private in a taxi, but I'm prepared to sacrifice that because I think women and girls need the additional safety. I wish we didn't live in that world, but we do. So therefore, sometimes we have to make some compromises. It's like if somebody gets knocked over on a road or nearly gets knocked over on a road and the council says, well, nobody's been killed there yet. We'll wait till we have 2 or 3 people killed and then we'll have a look at putting a pedestrian crossing in. It makes me extremely angry that women and girls' safety is subject to these kind of compromises, these kinds of limits to their importance by saying that, you know, we don't have the evidence, CCTV is not necessarily going to prevent it, it's going to be inconsistent, the government needs to get its act together, the government needs to mandate this nationally, we need to do it here as soon as it's feasible, and if a few people get caught snogging their mistress in the back seat, then I'm afraid that's something they're just going to have to live with, frankly, because as far as I'm concerned, the safety of women and girls is far more important. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Serious points there, Councillor Brennan. Thank you for those. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, for that one. Yes, but on the serious side, absolutely, the main factor is safety. You can't get away from that. There's no way around that. The safety of the public must be the priority. It is a fact of life that we're getting more and more cameras all over the place, in different walks of life, out on the roads, in buildings, all over the place. And it is just, it's sad that it's necessary, but we are where we are. In buses, you know, a lot of buses, I'm not saying all buses have got them, but there's a vast majority of buses have CCTV. Certainly the public service vehicles where you just get on and off. Okay, private coaches don't necessarily have them yet, but who knows? So it's important that the safety of the public is monitored, and people have made, several members have made the point. It isn't always just the safety of the passengers. It's if there's a false allegation made against a driver or anybody for that matter. I think it is absolutely vital that we do make sure that we lobby the government. In the conversation we had with James Nash, I actually said to him that I will be writing to him as well to ask him to put pressure on him to make sure that he does lobby the government to make sure that it is mandated, and I certainly hope that members of the Labour group will use their best endeavours to put pressure on James Nash as well to put that forward. I mean, Councillor Solomon gave good evidence of how CCTV has helped in securing convictions. I appreciate it's after the event, but no system is perfect, and there are possibly situations where it is an infringement. But I would just come back to, at the end of the day, it's about the safety of the public. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Clark, and Councillor Cumberlack.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I won't take up too much time, but I'm going to speak personally. As a mother, when my children were growing up, I would have been much happier had I known that they were coming home from a party as teenagers if they were in a taxi that had CCTV. And I'm sure many parents feel like that. We also have children who are having to be transported to their schools. I'm sure those parents would feel happier if there were CCTV in the camera, in the cab of the taxi. I know there is a cost to the CCTV, and we're suggesting that our Rushcliffe taxis voluntarily install CCTV. It's been demonstrated that, in point of fact, that is a unique selling point. Councillor Perret looked for a taxi with CCTV. I appreciate that wasn't why you were doing it, it was your research. But you could well be in that position where you wanted a taxi with CCTV. Unfortunately, as has been said, it's the world in which we live. And I'm afraid the best we can do is a perception that we are safer in a vehicle with CCTV. So I shall be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Cumberlack. I've got no other speakers indicated to speak. Councillor Regan, you reserved your right to speak, so would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yes, I would love to speak on this. This has been an eventful and interesting evening. I'll speak here today on an issue that sits at the very heart of what we're all here for: public safety, public confidence, and responsible local leadership. Without losing sight, the vote tonight is clearly to approve the licensing policy, which expires in roughly 32 days' time. I make no secret of my belief that CCTV in licensed taxis is a powerful safeguard. It protects passengers, it protects drivers, and crucially, it protects the reputation of our taxi trade. Men and women who work long hours serving our communities, often in challenging circumstances. I know myself, I have been a private hire driver in London. Fortunately, the only issue I ever had was asking Liam Gallagher to stop smoking in the back of my cab. Other than that, I felt quite safe. So Councillor Burt mentioned earlier that he wouldn't feel comfortable sitting in my restaurant if there was a CCTV at the table. We are licensed. We have 14 CCTV cameras in order to keep our customers and the public safe, and the police regularly use them. Excuse me.
Point of clarification, point of information. I meant specifically at the table is what I said, not in the general building. At each table was the analogy I drew.
Okay.
Thank you.
Carry on, Councillor Regan.
I accept that Councillor Burt stated at the table, but we do have 14 CCTV cameras around the building, again, to keep people safe. This is not a matter of if, it is a matter of how, when, and doing it right. I understand the concerns expressed by some that CCTV should be mandated immediately. I respect the intent behind that call. The public expects us to act with urgency, especially where safety is concerned. But we must also be honest with ourselves and with those we serve. Mandating CCTV overnight without research, cost modelling, data compliance, and alignment with national standards would not strengthen safety. It would expose us to legal challenge, operational chaos, and implementation failure. We risk imposing a duty on drivers without understanding the financial burden, the technical requirement, or the regulatory implications. And importantly, in today's market, our licensed taxi fleet is already competing with multinational deregulated platforms, which has been discussed many times tonight. If we move recklessly, we do not just mandate CCTV, we potentially mandate drivers out of the borough straight into the arms of Wolverhampton. So let us seize the opportunity in front of us today, not to divide over speed, but to lead together with credibility, evidence, and purpose. I thank Councillor Thomas for her excellent recommendations to review the CCTV element within 12-month period, and it gives us the opportunity to correctly review the area. It gives us an opportunity to research into best practice CCTV schemes already operating successfully in other boroughs and indeed around the world. And it allows us to produce a full cost analysis exploring bulk or trade schemes so that no licensed driver faces unsustainable expense. We ensure that the system meets national government guidelines, lawful data collection and storage, public safeguards for passengers and compliance with Home Office standards for surveillance in public service settings. And we introduce it through a phased, fair mandate supported by the trade, not imposed on the trade. And this is how we as a council deliver real safety, not symbolic safety, trustworthy policy, not headline policy, solutions that last, not solutions that break. And let me say this clearly, speed without readiness is not leadership, it is liability. Unity with evidence is leadership, as Councillor Polenta stated earlier.
30 seconds left.
Well, let me crack on then. Furthermore, this cross-party considered and balanced approach under the banner of this exemplar council should deliver nothing less than a blueprint for national government, for national rollout. That is setting the standard. That is setting the national standard, and it can be done within this council. And I urge all those who are considering voting against, or abstaining, to vote for this. Give the licensing committee the power, give the officers the power, and let's move forward to an excellent rollout. I'd like to request.
Time's up.
May I request a recorded vote?
Well,
to that point.
We'll come to that in a few moments, but I've noted that. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Regan. So, Councillor Inglis, you were the mover of the original motion along with the earlier addition. Would you like to reply and sum up, please?
Thank you. Yeah, well, what a lot of passion we've got in the room for this. Yeah, there's really strong arguments for it, and obviously we've got to take considerations for those concerns of why it is being introduced, or we're looking to introduce it. Yeah, I'll go back to Councillor Della. I know you don't agree with it. You know, you've gone historically on data. What we're looking to do is protect the future. You know, there are arguments for that, but we're looking at crime prevention. You know, if these things are in place, then that is a preventative measure. Why can't we do that? Councillor Solomon, yes, I know we spoke on a couple of other matters. What's the notes there? There we go. Yeah, it's safeguarding. You know, we're the ones wanting to lead by example. We've got send vehicles. That's contracted by Notts County Council. So I do hope you're taking that forward and pushing that from the county council side for the officers that requested the review across the whole county. We've got to be realistic. It's got to be achievable. You know, that's one of the basics for the things we do here, and you know, that's why we rejected your amendment. Councillor Thomas, yes, again, very sensible, pragmatic recognition of the complexity and considerations that's involved in all this. Which takes me on to the question from Councillor Chivins. You know, where I said it was legal to mandate. Yes, on the face of it, it is legal to mandate if we don't take into account those considerations. My allude to that was really, yes, we put it in without that considerations, without the legal obligations. It is illegal. We've got to address a local issue. We've got to do proportionality, necessity. It's got to have an effect at the end of it. We've got to abide by the AOC. We've got to abide by GDPR, and etc. etc. And it's got to have a legitimate aim. So that's the purpose of that quote. Councillor Birch, yes, I'm saying you're disagreeing with it, and the reasons why you're doing it for the safeguarding and the privacy and everything like that. That's the idea of the review. You know, that's what we're looking at through the review to address those issues. You know, they do have to comply. You know, there are lots and lots of regulations. We could sit here for 2 days looking at these regulations and everything, but that review will address that. Richard Mallender again speaks very clearly, very supportive, and I'll be interested to learn more about the industry work that you allude to. Councillor Poletto, yeah, you mentioned the vulnerable and send vehicles. Absolutely, absolutely, and that's something, as was mentioned, that hopefully Councillor Solomon can pick up with colleagues at leadership with the county council. Councillor Brown, you mentioned about driver tests. Yes, that's something we can take away to look at. Yeah, it's a very good, valid point. I know my history with driving taxi drivers, then I totally agree with that. We also got Councillor, yeah, I've done something else. So I think that sums it up really. I know Councillor Brennan speaks with absolute passion, as she should do. The key words coming out of this, it's imperative we do it as soon as possible. It's vital and it's necessary. But please don't overlook the first part of the report as well, the updates to the taxi policy as well. So yeah, I think the Austin report, it's something we're going to look at. Yeah, we want to do it, don't we? So, let's unite and let's all get it together. And then when it comes to that decision, when we've got the evidence, then that is the right decision for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Inglis. And now Councillor Regan indicated he'd like to have a recorded vote. We need at least four members to agree that they want a recorded vote. So who else would like to have a recorded vote? So yeah, okay, we'll have a recorded vote. So thank you. The monitoring officer will call out everyone's names and we need to indicate for, against or abstain. So monitoring officer.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillor Barney.
For.
Councillor Billing. For. Councillor Birch.
Against.
Councillor Bird.
For.
Councillor Brennan. For. Councillor Brown. Councillor Butler.
For.
Councillor Calvert.
For.
Councillor Chaplin. For. Councillor Chewings.
For.
Councillor Clark.
For.
Councillor Comberlack.
For.
Councillor Della.
Against.
Councillor Edavine.
For.
Councillor Ellis.
For.
Councillor Fletcher.
For.
Councillor Gaunt.
For.
Councillor Georgiou. For. Councillor Gowland. Councillor Grocott.
For.
Councillor Inglis.
For.
Councillor Richard Mallender.
For.
Councillor Sue Mallender. For. Councillor Mason. For. Councillor Matthews.
For.
Councillor Om.
For.
Councillor Perek.
For.
Councillor Phillips.
For.
Councillor Plant.
For.
Councillor Polenta. Councillor Regan. Councillor Sims.
For.
Councillor Solomon.
For.
Councillor Thomas. Councillor Upton. Councillor Verdi.
For.
Councillor Jen Walker. Councillor Way.
For.
Councillor Wells.
For.
Councillor Jonathan Wheeler.
For.
Councillor Williams.
For.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. So for the record, the vote was 39 in favour and 2 against. So the motion is carried. Thank you. That was a really important subject. Thank you for your forbearance with the admin side of things, but it was very important that we get it right on what is a very sensitive and important subject. We'll move on now to the update on the political composition of the council and committee membership. And Councillor Clark, would you like to move the report, please?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. This is one of those rare items where I'd basically say this is a technical item, really. There's not a lot to say about it because it's pretty self-explanatory. The author is the Chief Executive, and therefore I will merely move the recommendations A, B and C on page 1.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Clark. And Councillor Brennan, would you like to second?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Yes, I'll second and reserve the right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers on this item? Councillor Calvert.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. On my first reading of this report, it appeared to be an amazing sleight of hand by the majority party. It increased its number of members on the committees by 3, that's from 67 to 70, while at the same time having a reduction in its number of councillors from 24 to 23. I got some clues as to why this was possible from several more readings of the report and undertaking a series of calculations based on proportionality. In the end, I had to ask Democratic Services a series of questions to help me. As a result, I'm now satisfied that the calculations are consistent with the rules laid out in the legislation. So thank you very much, Deputy Monitoring Officer. Very clear advice. I won't quote the legislation because it is almost impossible to understand, but in summary, with regards to paragraph 4.3 of the report, it says if there is a majority party, and in this case that is 23 out of 44, it must have a majority on all committees. But there's actually a proviso that unless approved by all members present at a full council meeting, and that is exactly what happened in May this year. With regard to paragraph 4.7, proportionality is based on the overall total of councillors, which is 44, but is only applied to political groups and not to single members. Fortunately, the apportionment to each group left 3 seats unallocated, which meant 1 for each single member. So everything worked out very nicely. But the very interesting bit is what will happen if or when there is no majority party. I expect we will all be turning to that almost indecipherable legislation to check the rules. There's one other matter I wish to comment on in the paper, and that is about the appointment of the new Vice Chair of Planning Committee. As a loyal member of Planning Committee myself, I must say how impressed I have been with the professionalism of the members of the committee, not least past and present chairs and vice chairs. As such, I have no hesitation in approving the appointment, but agree it is not ideal that the chair and proposed vice chair represent the same ward. It would have been particularly tricky if Planning Committee made decisions on developments within the Ratcliffe-on-Soar Power Station local development order site, which is located in their shared ward, but thankfully Planning Committee do not have a say on that matter. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Calvert. Any other speakers or no? So, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I didn't see you indicate. Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am right at the other end. So, so my recent move to Reform UK has required this additional work from officers in recalculating the political proportionality and rebalancing committee memberships. And I do appreciate that this has not been straightforward. It's been quite tricky, and I do wish to place on record my thanks for the efforts that have gone into this process. And I am satisfied it's all compliant and everything. That's not the issue. But I do want to express my disappointment with the outcome. So in previous years, I've been an active member of this council across a number of committees, including Community Scrutiny Group, the Licensing Committee and the Local Development Framework Group, to name a few. And I've always taken those roles seriously, and you know me, I'm quite vocal, and I've contributed to the work of those groups. And I believe and I hope that it's had a genuinely positive impact. So it's incredibly disappointing to find myself removed from every committee or group except the member development group. So while the member development group, which I did actually chair for 23-24, it plays an integral role. It does play an internal role for councillors. It's inward facing, focused on councillor training and internal matters. So the results of this review is that my ability to participate in, influence or directly scrutinise the decisions on reports and influence policy that affect local residents has effectively been removed. Apparently, as the councillor said, if I was part of a group of 2, the situation would look different in terms of allocation, and I would have a more active position on a committee or group that does affect residents. So whilst I understand the complexity of the proportionality rules, I remain disappointed with the outcome and the effect that it has had on my ability to represent my residents in the most meaningful way within the council. Nonetheless, I'll continue to work hard, contribute constructively where I can, and ensure that my residents' voices are heard.
Thank you, Councillor Solomon. I don't think we've had any more speakers on this, so Councillor Brennan, you reserved your right to speak, so would you like to do so?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I mean, as has been said, it's largely a technical exercise, so I hadn't realised we were auditioning for roles, otherwise I might put myself forward for leader, who knows. But I'm going to regret that now, aren't I? Actually made me blush. Anyway, thank you. Yes, I'm happy.
What was it like being deputy leader?
I'm happy to second the paper, and I'll shut up.
Well, thank you, Councillor Brennan. Councillor Clark, you moved the motion. Would you like to respond?
Reports to my office. Right. Blimey, non-plus. Yeah, right. Anyway, I'll repeat again, as Councillor Brennan did say correctly, it is a technical paper, and I do take issue actually with Councillor Calvert for accusing the ruling party of sleight of hand, because it's got nothing to do with the ruling party. Ruling party doesn't make the ruling party doesn't make the rules. So obviously the chief executive has followed the rules, and just the same as the influence on things and scrutiny around the place, the best way to keep that to have that and engage in that is to be part of a larger group. So again, that is how it has worked out according to the rules, and it's absolutely nothing to do with the ruling party either. So I'm sure we're all going to agree with it, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Well, we're now ready to take a vote on this, so we need a show of hands, please, for those in favour. I think that's unanimous, but just to be on the safe side, is anyone against? And are there any abstentions? No, so that's good. The proposed motion is carried. Now, I'm very conscious of the fact that many of us have been sitting here now for just over 2 hours. We've still got a couple of items to come on the agenda. I've had 1 or 2 hints that people might be needing a little bit of a break. I mean, I'm happy if we don't, but I'm just mentioning that, or we can carry on. No. We'll carry on. No, we'll carry on. I was just conscious of the fact that there have been indications earlier on that it might be appropriate. So we will move on, and we move on to notice of motions. And the first motion is to be put by Councillor Birch, and will be seconded by Councillor Chewing. So, Councillor Birch, would you like to move your motion, please?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and I'll keep this very brief as I think the motion speaks for itself. I think the tension is palpable. This is exciting, isn't it? There we go. So the report's got some very sensible recommendations in it. I think they're very sensible. I'd make a very quick comment on some of the potential worries that members may have, and I shared those concerns, particularly around sanctions against councillors in terms of suspensions and so on. Just to be clear, the report says these suspensions will be in only the most egregious cases. We're talking fraud, we're talking threats of violence against members, etc. So it's not to do, to quote the noble and wise Councillor Sims, hurty words, it's for more egregious things. So I just wanted to make that clear from the outset. But I do hope members can agree that these are sensible suggestions and we can endorse them as a council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Birch. Councillor Chewins, you indicated you wish to second. Do you wish to speak or reserve your right?
I'll reserve my right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And so we can open up to discussion on this. So Councillor Jonathan Wheeler, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. So we're happy to accept the motion and to be voting for it this evening. So it's worth saying the report that first came in was a while ago from the Committee of Standards Public Life. It's now been replaced by the Ethics and Integrity Commission. So if you are trying to find that report and you spent a while like I was trying to find that committee, it doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. The government have actually responded to consultations that they put out from this committee and elsewhere, including local councils on 11th November. It seems like they're not going to go forward with all the recommendations, so we're happy to write to the government and ask them to change their mind, but it might be worth actually speaking to MPs, etc. as well, because it looks like the government, the minister who's responded, don't agree with all the recommendations that have been put forward. It is also worth just making notes that in recommendation 3 about committing to review the council's own code of conduct. So if the legislation does change nationally, just to reassure members that we would obviously have to implement that anyway, we'd have that such obligation to do so, and it will go through the internal council process to review the code of conduct as a result of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeler. Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Oh, Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Just to reiterate really what Councillor Wheeler has said, this is something that is likely to be coming law. This is the recommendation from the committee to the government, and as and when it does become law, then it's something that we would obviously be adhering to and taking up and following as a council anyway, as part of our code of conduct. So, but I mean, there's no point in trying to change it or vote against it, because it is something that is going to be, we assume is going to be nothing. Never say that everything is absolutely going to happen, but we assume this is going to happen, and therefore easiest just to follow it.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor
Way.
Councillor Way, sorry.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Oh, don't know what that is, if it's not me. Turn it. Yeah. I support this motion, but I'd just like to point out that we already have a very comprehensive code of conduct in our constitution, and it never hurts us to revisit this now and again, and remind ourselves of our responsibilities. So I would recommend that members have a quick review of the constitution regarding conduct, starting on page 178, and maybe take particular reference to, I think it's paragraph 542, about what it means to show respect to each other and to the officers and to the members of the public, because occasionally that can be seen lacking. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Way, and yeah, I'm sure colleagues do understand that. I know that sometimes in the heat of a moment, things sometimes can come across as if less than friendly or respectable, but I'd like to think that all councillors do remember to keep the respect. But thank you for your comments. Any other speakers on the Councillor Perrick?
I'll be very brief. The 7 Nolan principles of public life are selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty, and leadership. They were established by the UK's Committee of Standards in Public Life in 1995 to provide a framework for conduct of individuals in public office. Since becoming, I'm a new councillor, and since being in this chamber for over 2.5 years, I've often seen that not everybody is adhering to the code of conduct, and I would like to see that more replicated, not just in Rushcliffe, but everywhere across the country. As such, I wholeheartedly support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Perrick. No other speakers, so Councillor Chewings, you reserved your right to speak. Would you like to speak?
I'm happy to keep quiet for a change.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So we have the motion has been oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Birch. You need to. I beg your pardon. I'm not being disrespectful, but it's if you could wind up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I appreciate you didn't mean any disrespect. It's fine. Thank you, everyone, for your comments, and I'm glad we're all on the same page with regards to this. And again, I agree with Councillor Way in terms of the code of conduct. I'm going to say a couple of things now. I have been shocked since I was elected in 2023 at some of the behaviour that has been levelled at me and my family members. During the 2023 election, a sitting cabinet member for this authority screamed sexually vulgar expletives in my girlfriend's face. When informed of it, the then chair of the Rushcliffe Conservative Association, Neil Clark, not only failed to apologise, took no action, but he actually refused recordings of the incident, and I've got that in writing. On another occasion, a threat was made against my 4-year-old daughter. I quote, "I hope your daughter gets cancer." Now, I put it to you, if anyone said that about your child or your grandchild, you would not be happy. These are the reasons why we need high standards and why the code of conduct needs to be followed. And I will just finish with this, and I want to make it very clear. And I want to make it very clear that any of you are perfectly within your rights to raise a point of order and correct anything that you disagree with that's false. Members to this day, presumably because you're electorally threatened by us, say that we are involved with a group called Ashfield Independence. We have no links to Ashfield Independence. Not only do we have no links, we formally rejected an offer to join their movement in 2022.
Yeah, Councillor Birch, could we really stick to the motion that's in front of us?
Absolutely. The point I'm making is that they are breaches of the code of conduct. There is clear intimidation and abuse that has been levelled by members because we have a standard system that is not fit for purpose. And I wanted to get that on the record, and I do know that nobody did a point of order to correct any of that. So thank you for making that clear and on the record. Robust speech is fine. This is political criticism. This is fine. It is my birthright as an Englishman to have free speech and to speak however I want to speak. And you can speak the same back to me. You can criticise my ideas and policies all day long. But I draw the line at abuse and harassment of me or my family members. And I draw a line tonight. I want it to stop. Thank you.
Yes,
I commend this
I
motion
think,
to the vote. Thank you.
Right, just to make the point, hearing what you're saying, it's if there's a complaint to be made though against a member or anyone, then there is a process to follow. Right, thank you, Councillor Birch. Summing up, we've had the motion moved, seconded. We need to go to the vote now. So can we have a show of hands, please, for those in favour of the motion? I think that's unanimous. Be on the safe side again, though, just for the record. Anyone against? And no abstentions. So the motion is carried. So thank you for that. Which takes us on to our second motion, which is to be put by Councillor Jen Walker and seconded by Councillor Billett. So Councillor Jen Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. This evening, I'm bringing forward a proposal that I believe will strengthen our governance, broaden democratic participation, and improve the quality of the policies we develop on behalf of our residents. I'm asking Council to support the establishment of councillor policy panels. Try to say that fast, it's a bit tricky. A new mechanism to give members a meaningful role in shaping policy at an early stage. As colleagues will know, under the current leader and cabinet system, executive authority rests with cabinet. Corporate overview and scrutiny then review decisions after they've been made. But over recent years, we've seen a growing gap between those two processes. Participation from minority group leaders at cabinet has declined, and many non-executive members tell me that they often feel shut out of policy formation until it's very late in the process. This is not a criticism of any individual, it's simply a reflection that our existing structures don't always give councillors the space they need to explore ideas, test assumptions, or bring forward the deep community knowledge that each of us holds. Increasing democracy won't harm what already exists. Other councils facing similar challenges have introduced policy panels, informal, time-limited working groups that give members the opportunity to help shape strategy before it reaches cabinet. And that's the model I'm proposing today. The purpose of these panels is simple. It's to broaden member engagement at the earliest stage of policy development, to make better use of our collective ward level insight, to increase transparency and trust, and to build genuine cross-party collaboration around shared priorities. Each panel would comprise 6 to 8 non-executive councillors, draw from across the political groups. They'd be chaired by a member agreed between group leaders. Importantly, these panels would not be a substitute for cabinet or scrutiny. They would complement them by giving members the space to explore issues in depth, take evidence, and propose solutions. A panel, for example, might look at topics such as the car parking on match days in West Bridgeford, or proposals around local government reorganisation as it's currently looming, or how we participate in budgeting and how that could work around Rushcliffe. Panels would formalise our present ad hoc task and finish group, and also the unused 3.7 policy development review of the Constitution, and would meet informally 3 or 4 times over a period of a few months, with officer support available to coordinate evidence and facilitate discussions. Imagine how earlier commitment to a local government reorganisation policy panel would have led to better engagement and better outcomes, with less suspicion and cynicism. By the end of the process, they would produce a short report or a set of recommendations for Cabinet to consider. The scrutiny fully kept informed. While panels would not have any decision-making powers, their work would ensure that Cabinet receives richer, better tested, and more community-informed proposals. Colleagues, benefits are clear. This approach increases democratic engagement, it draws in diverse perspectives, it strengthens collaboration across political groups, it improves transparency, and crucially, it helps develop the skills and confidence of councillors, particularly our newer members, by giving them hands-on experience and evidence-based policymaking. Cost of running these panels would be modest and largely absorbed within existing resources. Some specialist engagement may occasionally be required, but this would be small and, in my view, more than outweighed by the better decision-making and fewer policy revisions later. The motion before you sets out a simple implementation plan. Cabinet would be asked to approve this pilot this December. At least 2 pilots, perhaps one on climate change and one on housing, would run from March to June or July next year. An evaluation would then come to scrutiny in Cabinet in the autumn, with full rollout from 2027 if the pilot proves successful. So tonight I'm asking Council to recommend that Cabinet 1 approves the establishment of councillor policy panels on a pilot basis, 2 authorises the monitoring officer and democratic services to finalise the details of the arrangement, and 3 request that overview and scrutiny review the outcomes after 12 months. This proposal is not about changing our governance model, it's about strengthening it, making it more inclusive, more transparent, and more reflective of the communities we serve. I commend the proposal to Council and hope members will support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Councillor Billen, I think you wish to second the motion. Do you wish to do that and speak?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I second the motion and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you very much. So we open it up now to discussion and debate. And the first speaker is Councillor Birdie, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'm very glad that Councillor Walker, and I agree with her sentiments about robust governance. However, I want to be very clear from the outset. This motion to establish policy panels is unnecessary, uncosted, and completely out of step with both the demands of this council is facing and the direction of national policy. It creates bureaucracy we do not need, costs we cannot afford, and panels that will not survive for more than 2 years. It is poorly timed, poorly evidenced, and frankly, poorly thought through. We already have a secure scrutiny system that works, which you've referred to, Councillor Walker. Councillors can and do challenge policies before and after they are implemented. Indeed, we have major items coming through next year, council tax, income recovery and enforcement, and the asset management plan, all being properly scrutinised through existing channels. If Councillor Walker believes these policies are being missed, or some policies are being missed, then perhaps we can identify and have a list of these. But the motion doesn't really identify any single examples, in my view. The tools exist already. You refer to a lot of those. Corporate overview group, the forward plan, call-ins, working groups, all available. In my view, all underused for their intended purpose, but they are there. Importantly, the motion makes no reference to the real resource implications. You say, Councillor Walker, modest costs. However, and glaringly, the motion avoids mentioning the fact that actually the implications are staggering. To run 2 policy panels, we would potentially need a new scrutiny policy officer, £45,000 to £50,000 a year, a chair and vice chair allowances, possibly another £10,000, and new remuneration.
Sorry, can I just clarify, because you just said these things, you've just been saying these things already exist. So why can't we just use what's already there? Like, our big problem is we don't know they exist because we've never had that shared.
Sorry, I mean, the corporate overview group, the forward plan, working groups, these are all in existence, Councillor Vaughan.
No, yeah, let's can't really get into a little discussion across a chamber like that. So, Councillor Birdie, if you carry on, please.
So the implications are actually staggering. They're not modest. As I said, a new scrutiny policy officer potentially up to £55,000, chair and vice councillor allowances up to £10,000. A new remuneration panel will be required, another £10,000, and of course the meeting costs, caretaking, the building, etc., associated costs. So we're looking at potentially £70,000, which, in my view, is not modest at all. At a point when the council is preparing for the most significant structural upheaval in decades, and the motion doesn't really mention or acknowledge these, apart from the fact believing that they're modest. I would ask the question, why bring forward a proposal with such costs and implications without any real, in my view, benefit, because we already have the existing structures and framework in place? The motion claims many authorities use policy panels. Where might I ask? Because as far as I'm aware, in Nottinghamshire, there aren't any, and introducing them right now before LGR is absurd. Officers will already be stretched to breaking point over the next 18 months, as we already know, as we are councillors. Many of us struggle with balancing parish responsibilities, committees, and mandatory training. So adding more meetings, more paperwork, and more admin is completely unrealistic. Additionally, the proposed pilots, and I can see them on the screen there, for example, one of them is referring to West Bridgford Town Council. It doesn't exist. How do you scrutinise something that doesn't exist? The West Bridgford, okay,
You be able to come back when you speak.
It is in the motion suggesting that the West Bridgford Council, I'm highlighting, it does not exist. The West Bridgford expense already has its own meetings and then comes to full council. There is no policy gap, there is no scrutiny gap. Participatory budgeting, we already have debate on the budget. All councillors take part, Cabinet formulates it, scrutiny reviews it, full council approves it. What exactly is a policy panel supposed to add that isn't already done? Councillors themselves
themselves have not asked for this. Officers have spoken to members for months about improving scrutiny. Feedback was clear. The system works. Corporate Overview Group discussed this only last week. There was no appetite for change, none. The motion is not member-led. It is not evidence-led. It is not need-led. It is an answer to a question that nobody has asked. And critically, I would like to highlight, it's worth sharing, the Centre for Governance and Scrutiny, the CFGS, has confirmed that the government intends to abolish committee structures entirely. The minister has said new unitary councils must adopt the cabinet system. Why? Because the committee system, and this is the government's own wording, is unclear, duplicative and wasteful. And yet tonight we are being asked to create 2 brand new committee style panels, extra layers, extra meetings, extra bureaucracy, right before they are abolished in the next 2 years. Why would any serious council waste time considering this, and officer capacity building structures we know are going to be scrapped? It's irrational and it's wasteful. And it is the exact opposite of what the government guidance is suggesting. So to summarise, no evidence of a problem, no identification of missed policy, 70,000 potential costs, no capacity for councillors or officers. LGR is going to make it all redundant, and yet we're being asked to approve this. Deputy Mayor, this is not a motion, it's a distraction. It creates costs without value, work without purpose, and panels without a future. It's half-baked, ill-timed, and fiscally irresponsible. This council should reject it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Verdi. I've got 4 speakers so far, and the next name on the list is Councillor Polenta.
Well, I'm not the one. I don't think democracy has an exchange value. I don't think democracy can be monetized. Now, this motion doesn't challenge scrutiny, doesn't diminish scrutiny. Nothing weakens scrutiny. What this motion does is amplifying it, creating a space where members from across this chamber can help shape policy before decisions are made, rather than only examine them afterwards. At this moment, too often councillors, especially the ones that don't belong to the majority group, find themselves responding to proposals that are already fully formed. Minority groups can become spectators rather than participants, and residents are asked for their views only after decisions have already been made. Policy panels give us a chance as a starting point to reimagine the role of councillors as community planners and conveners, working in a genuinely bottom-up way, creating the condition for all voices to be heard. This is about unleashing and has the potentiality to unleash the power of our community. It is about meaningful participation, it's about collective deliberation and co-production, drawing not only on formal expertise, but on the lived first-person knowledge and tacit experience of all our residents. It strengthens our relationship. We can strengthen our relationship with local trade unions, with charities, neighborhood associations, community organizers, with people's assemblies, and often overlooked voices, including children's councils. It strengthens us as a council that reflects and participates vibrantly in our diverse communities. This proposal does not sit in a vacuum. I agree. It sits with local government reorganization on the horizon, and now we have a rare opportunity to shape the future. We can help create local groupings of democracy at a time when the public is crying out for it and feels disenfranchised and disconnected. We can either play it safe, I suppose, fold old structures into new ones, or we can lift our ambition and design institutions that genuinely reshape the relationship between residents, communities and local government. Policy panels are a step towards that direction, a way of building community power from the ground up, a model that moves beyond reductionist, box-ticking consultation towards ongoing dialogue, shared design and real deliberation. Policy panels do describe this starting point, and facets of it have been used in UK and Europe and worldwide. So across the UK, we have councils moving to this direction. We have Newham has a standing citizens assembly. Camden and Oxford have used assemblies and jury to navigate complex decisions. Scotland delivers sometimes in a big extent participatory budgets. We have the Wigan and the community wealth building in Preston and Salford. Across Europe, we have a similar picture. We have Barcelona neighborhood assemblies. We have Bologna's Pact of Collaboration. We have Paris' huge participatory budget. We have Naples community-run social center, and that demonstrates what can be possible when participation is built into the system. Policy panels would allow us to open up policy making by default, test ideas early rather than defend them late, build cross-party collaboration when we can instead of conflict by press relief, and strengthen a genuine dialogue and free-flow debate with our community. Scrutiny will remain exactly as it is, retrospective, foreseen, and essential. Policy panels will sit alongside it, providing a forward-looking space for shared design and collective thinking. Tonight, we have the chance to agree on something simple and constructive. Because if we want renewal, if we want resilience and public trust, we cannot keep making decisions behind closed doors and then ask people to ratify. By adopting the spirit of municipalism, horizontal decision-making, participatory budgeting, and civic production, we can move from governing for our communities to govern with them. Policy panels offer one of the clearest and most practical ways to make this shift, not just changing decisions, but changing who gets to make this decision. So I think it's a good step forward to open the process, to deepen democracy, and make this council not only a place of scrutiny, but a place of co-creation.
Thank you, Councillor Polenta. I've got 6 more speakers to come, and the next name on the list is Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Walker for bringing this motion to full council, as it gives me the opportunity to highlight the importance of the scrutiny process. It isn't just there to look back over what the council has done and give ourselves a pat on the back, but to be more, as a fellow colleague would say, to be a critical friend. Yes, we look back, but we look back on where we can learn lessons and improve on how things can operate and function for our residents. However, it's not just looking back, it is allow us to look at policy development as well. Many strategies and policies has been through the scrutiny process, one being the corporate strategy discussed at Corporate Overview, or COG for short, as we often know it, in November 2023 and adopted at full council in December 2023. Scrutiny has also had a wide input into wider strategies around Nottinghamshire. For example, Nottinghamshire Local Nature Recovery Strategy, which was discussed as community scrutiny in April this year. Scrutiny is already a cross-party function of this council, being made up of all groups. However, it hasn't been fully employed as a tool within council by everyone to raise items. I had a look through the requests discussed at COG since May 2023 to see who submitted them. Officers of the council has been 9, Leek Independents 8, Conservatives 6, Rushcliffe 3, Labour 3, Rushcliffe Independents 1, Independent 1, and then there was a joint one request from East Leek Independents and Conservatives. The head of corporate services did make an action from the corporate peer challenge to review our scrutiny process, but only a few responses were received. I feel this motion is just creating another layer within the council process that we...
Sorry, point of clarification. I don't have to, I'm sorry. This is about creating policy panels, and we seem to be talking about scrutiny. And I'm going to ask the monitor officer, if possible, when you finish your speech, before I start my speech, if you could clarify the wording in the document, the Constitution, that talks about these groups that already exist. I'll come back to that, but sorry, I just want to clarify. We need to be talking about panels, not continue.
Yeah. So I feel that this is just creating another layer within the council process that we, councillors and officers, don't need. We already have a process and we utilise it to its full potential. To aid this, it was agreed at the last meeting of COG that links to scrutiny training resources be circulated through councillors' connections. Scrutiny is there to be forward thinking and to have an input into policy development, so please use it. For those reasons, I view this motion as a duplicate of a facility that we already have.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. And the next speaker is Councillor Gaunt, please.
Yeah, sorry, before I do speak, could we just find out what the wording is so that we know what we're talking, because we're being told that it already exists. Before I speak, I'd like to know what that looks like, if that's possible. Yeah.
Yes, we can do that, and we will do it now. So, Deputy Monitoring Officer, please.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Yes, it's paragraph 3.71 of the Constitution, which is a specific function of scrutiny for policy development and review. Scrutiny committees may, and that includes establish member panels focusing on particular areas of policy development and review with a view to making recommendations to the Cabinet when necessary.
Okay, thank you. Well, before I pick up on the things that were said that were slightly confused, I just want to go to that point. I find it's a little bit strange that this motion was brought to the officers over a month ago, this motion. We shared it with all the councillors on this side of the room because we wanted to see how they felt. Nobody knew that that option existed of these member groups that could be created. No one picked it up. It went to the monitoring officer to get onto the agenda. It was passed as a quality motion that works, that we can adopt. It went to the chief executive because then there was a meeting of the leaders of all these opposition groups, and obviously Councillor Clark, if he'd been there, would have also been in the room, but wasn't there. He doesn't need to be there. On Monday, it was never questioned at any point that this wasn't a valid motion and was contradicting things that already exist. So I'm a bit confused as to how that's ended up happening and how it's been allowed to be brought as a motion. Surely we could have brought this some other way without that happening. The second point I'd like to go back to, that was just for clarification, is what I don't understand is why we suddenly start talking about creating new committees with chairs of scrutiny that's going to cost tens of thousands of pounds. This is a policy panel where people just gather together in a room. It will be chaired, but it can be chaired by one of all of us. Doesn't matter who it is. You bring people from the community, stakeholders, people with knowledge to talk about these things. And one of the examples is West Bridgford Town Council. This is about shaping policy about something that doesn't exist. Yeah, we understand that. Scrutiny and scrutinising things that do exist, right? So the point is, we bring it, we share in the discussion of how it works, and then we end up with a situation where we're all involved in it and we all feel that we understand it. I'll give an example from the workplace about how feels scrutiny works a little bit. And I'm a vice chair of scrutiny. I'm not criticising the scrutiny group and how it works. But if you think of in a workplace, people who are not involved in policy making don't realise the policies that they work under exist until they fall foul. And one example of that is people's attendance at work when they're ill. They don't realise there's a sickness policy till they find themselves in a meeting with a trade union rep defending them because they're on their third illness, and suddenly they find they're on a track towards some sort of monitoring of their attendance. They didn't know that existed because they weren't involved in the shaping of that policy. It would be so much simpler and cleverer if we gathered together and shared before the event and discussed things with experts involved, with members of the public, whatever the thing we were discussing, looked at policies we could shape, and then you guys shape them. The other point I'm a bit confused about is how just because the government are talking about scrapping and moving to a cabinet-based system in all get rid of committees that you mentioned, well, we already have, it seems, these groups that exist, and we have a cabinet system. So if these things already exist and we don't need these policy panels, how do we go about making sure they get used? Why does no one on this half of the room, and probably quite a few people on that side of the room, don't really know that they exist and that they can be created, and they've not been used at all, maybe once or twice? We are creating one soon, and it's for what happens with LGR in the future. Why didn't we have that policy group before LGR to help us all together shape that idea? I just don't understand. So either this is a legitimate motion that we can put forward and debate and you can turn it down, or it isn't because they already exist. So I'd like clarification on that. Let's see where we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gort. Now, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more speakers so far yet to go, and then there'll be the summing up. Sorry, 6 more speakers. Thank you. Just 6 more speakers to go, plus a summing up. I'm getting indications that there's a couple of members who are asking for a comfort break. So would we be happy to take a 5-minute break now and then resume the discussion? Sorry, Chief Executive, if you can help us on that.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Just to clarify, so when a motion comes before any of us as officers, our job is not to rewrite them or create something different. It's to answer whether or not it meets the test that we have to specify. What was asked here is what's above you, which is a motion that can be brought forward because it's outside what's already there. So already in the Constitution, which I'm sure you all know and read inwardly, you'll be aware of in the Constitution, it clearly does say about these panels, which are created through scrutiny. That was made clear during those discussions that they could be created through scrutiny. Those discussions were had. So in terms of those discussions that were had,
in terms of this motion, this isn't asking it to be created through scrutiny, it's asked to be separately to the scrutiny function because that already exists. Therefore, it does meet the criteria and the test as a valid motion to be considered at council. That's a motion.
No. It was a draft, kind of, this is what I'd like to do. I said, what would be the best way for me to bring this forward? To put all of this. And it was not offered to me. Never.
I think the deputy monitoring officer will reply to that point, and then we will take a break. So deputy monitor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Yes, I think when you brought the proposed motion, Councillor Walker, for the proposal, we did have a discussion that that was the role of scrutiny to help develop policy, but I think you felt that that scrutiny was not working effectively, and so it was not giving members the opportunity to help shape policy. Well, to be fair, neither did I.
Okay.
It was when I had seen it, and then that's when I brought it, and I raised it with you as soon as I'd seen that specific one. Okay, so I apologise for any confusion, but
okay, thank you, Deputy Monitoring Officer. Thank you, colleagues. We are where we are with the motion. We'll take a short comfort break now. Can I suggest we're back at 9:45? Can we start making our way back, please? We need to make our way back to our seats, please, because time is literally running out. Right, colleagues, can we get back to our seats, please? That was a very long 5 minutes. There's been a lot of discussion going on, as you will have seen, regarding some procedural matters. So thank you for your patience with that. Now, as you probably know, that we have a cut-off time of for council meetings of 10 o'clock. It's now 4 minutes to 10. We are able to extend, if anyone requests that, to do so up until 10:30. So we can either just carry on now and finish at 10 o'clock, unless there's a request to go on until Councillor Garland. For the record, because your microphone wasn't on, Councillor Gowland has requested a request on standing orders to whichever standing order it is to take us up to 10:30. Are we all happy to do that? Just quick show of hands, please. And those against, please show. So 20. So the proposal is carried. We carry on. Okay, calm down. Calm down. Now, next speaker on the list, and on a serious note, there was a lot of, frankly, I think, unnecessary diversion there, and that's not fair to any of us, especially when you've got a big agenda. So I just ask everyone to bear that in mind for future meetings. So we'll move on to the next name on the list here, which is Councillor Gowland.
Thank you. I'm going to be short. I don't agree with the government. That is something I quite frequently say, and I particularly don't agree with the government on getting rid of committees. I didn't agree with the previous government getting rid of committees. No government likes councils to have power, and that's why they don't want committee structures, because that's where the power lies. Localism is key to democracy. The advantage of committees, and I have had the privilege of being on a committee at County Hall in the previous days before they got rid of them, actually with Councillor Clark, was it was really a really great way to work through really detailed problems, even like yellow lines I remember discussing. It was a much better way of doing politics, basically. I don't know why Councillor Verdi had to be quite so unnecessary in his tone. But Councillor Williams, I actually learnt something from your input, your speech. Thank you. I have to say my personal experience of scrutiny has been extremely negative. I've never got anything actually through, even to the committee, let alone to actually just make any difference. We could have citizen assemblies want to go the whole way and really bring everybody in. And I think this is what we're talking about here, is actually making decisions in a better way. But the reason I had to speak up is because Councillor Verdi, it says a West Bridgford Town Council, not the West Bridgford Town Council. We need more localism. We need more councils. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gowland, and Councillor Perec, please.
I want to start by recognizing the intentions behind this motion. We all want strong engagement, better policy, and a more collaborative council. But good intentions do not automatically lead to good governance. Too many cooks spoil the broth is the phrase that comes to my mind when I reflect on what is being proposed here and where the policy panel risks creating more complexity, more bureaucracy, and more confusion while delivering a very little meaningful improvement. Let me explain why. This proposal duplicates already what we have, which is overview and scrutiny groups and the task groups. The suggestion that non-executive members have no opportunity simply isn't accurate. And we have already the ability under our constitution for any councillor from any party to request items for scrutiny or policy development. One of the strengths of the leader and cabinet system is clarity. We know who is responsible. Cabinet makes decisions and is accountable for them. Policy panels makes this muddy. If we all take part in policy formulation, but only cabinet takes decisions, who do the residents hold responsible when things go wrong? Everyone and no one. Other councils have learned this the hard way. In Guildford, executive advisory boards were reviewed because they caused duplication, delays, and confusion. They were cross-party, yes, but largely advisory only, and staff reported they added work without improving outcomes. In Nottinghamshire, cross-party advisory panels have been criticised by members as talking shops. Because recommendations often go nowhere once cabinet makes its own decisions. In Dorset, the executive advisory panel for the local plan has repeatedly been described as informal and lacking real influence, despite the huge amount of officer time required to support it. So I ask, do we really want to copy models that other councils have already found flawed? This proposal adds cost and bureaucracy when a council can least afford it. New panels mean more meetings, more officer reports, more democratic administration, more legal oversight, more training, more allowances or expenses, and more delays to decision making. Every additional layer takes officers away from delivering frontline services. We should be simplifying governance, not making it more expensive and time consuming. The 12-month pilot cannot possibly evaluate effectiveness. Policy development cycles run over 18 to 36 months. So a 12-month pilot with 2 panels, neither of which may even reach a cabinet decision within the time frame, risks giving us no meaningful evaluation whatsoever. The LGR is imminent. Why redesign structures now? If we already expect LGR governance within its own, if we already expect LGR to shape governance within its own timescale, why introduce a short-term structure that may be scrapped or redesigned within 2 years? This does not look strategic, it looks rushed. The real issue is culture, not structure. If minority groups feel their contributions are declining, then let's fix that. Stronger use of scrutiny, clearer responses by officers to member inquiries, joint working groups where needed. We don't need an entirely new governance tier. We need better use of the one we already have. Colleagues, we've been asked today to vote on something that will cost more, deliver little, risk confusion, and duplicate structures that already exist. Let's not follow models that others are already rethinking. Let's focus instead on improving the tools we already have, strengthening scrutiny, and building a more open culture of collaboration without burdening officers or members with unnecessary layers. For these reasons, I urge members to vote against this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Perek. Now, there are 6 more names on the list here. We absolutely have to be done by 10:30. They'll be winding up to do on top of those 6 names. So I would suggest that we need to, well, just bear that in mind. So the next name on the list is Councillor Groscock, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'll try and be brief. I think there's a little bit of confusion here. We're not requesting an entirely new structure that's going on. The motion clearly talks about 2 pilot panels, just 2 pilot panels. Okay, and we've only just really learned that a mechanism for policy panels actually exists through scrutiny, which is something I was thinking on as I was planning to speak on this, because it's just 2 additional policy panels. Now, I've taken part in something that was effectively a policy panel in this council, and do you know who initiated this policy panel? It was Councillor Clark, and you know what we discussed? Housing management companies. Do you remember when we all sat down with expert stakeholders from housing management companies, with local residents? And you know what? Councillor Clark did an impeccable job chairing that. It was a great exercise to take part in. It was a great exercise to take part in. It was open, it was thoughtful, we collaborated, we used expert advice, we came up with an agreed set of actions. So all we're really doing here is requesting another mechanism to do something similar to that great work that Councillor Clark led. It isn't a massive review and transformation of our governance. It's a pilot, yeah, a pilot. not a huge cost, not a huge transformation. So I would ask members who took part in that and what that Housing Management Committee policy panel did, which was a great success, and just ask and just consider that actually all we're requesting is a pilot to look at a couple of other areas. So let's not over dramatize what's being requested here as though we're trying to rewrite the entire constitution of the council. All it is to do is to bring forward two policy panels that we want to pilot over a 12-month period. That's all. We've done it before. We did it with great success. Councillor Clark, did we not? So let's look at these two other areas and do this as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Grocott. We've got now next on the list is Councillor Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Chair, or Mayor rather. Right, I'm a little bit confused, if I'm perfectly honest. I became a councillor to represent my ward, to represent the people of my ward. They talked to me, I talked to the council. We developed policies and procedures on their views, not mine. That's first and foremost why I joined. The quangocracy that's making this country a mess, where government can't make decisions because experts make the decisions for them. Is that really what we want for a high performing? Can we stop being rude, please?
Yes.
I get tired of this. Every time I stand up, somebody heckles. I think it's unprofessional and not required. I am trying to say something. Don't be rude, please.
Carry on, Councillor Sims, and the point being as well, members need to be
No, they're being rude.
No, but members need to be reminded they actually address the mayor and not one to one.
Of respect, please. Local government officers, look at you laughing. You're pathetic. You're pathetic. No,
Excuse me, a
they're
point
laughing.
of order.
They are
He's
laughing.
telling us to behave, but he's telling us
Right,
we're pathetic.
Okay,
I mean,
well, stop laughing.
It's just.
Stop laughing.
I'm not laughing. I'm
Stop
just
laughing.
staring.
Okay.
Councillor Sims, we're running out of time. Just get back to the main point, please.
When are we going to create a sub panel for the panel that you're proposing? When does this stop? When do you honestly have the time for this? Honestly, where the mechanisms are in place within this organisation. As a governance and compliance professional in my day job, I'd be pulling my hair out if I had anything, thinking, what planet are these people on? Clear, concise arrangements and accountability and structures of control and communication is what's needed with good governance. You're trying to create a mess. This council isn't in a mess. It just needs better communication from you guys. And often I complain about my communication within my group. So it's not just down to you guys, it's down to we work with what we've got and we communicate better and we have respect for people. Even though they come from different ways of life and different cultures, we have respect for them. That's all I'm going to say now. So with that bombshell, I'll sit down.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Sims. And Councillor Chewings.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'll keep it calm. Thank you to Councillor Grocott for reminding me of that meeting some months ago, last year, wasn't it now? And it was a very useful meeting, and it allowed us to move forward in a collective manner, bringing the voices forward and moving forward and putting a position to the government. And it was chaired by the leader of the council. Who that leader of the council will be next year, who knows? Maybe Councillor Brennan, we shall see. So 2 points really. We've gone through LGR, we've debated LGR in this chamber several times. We've had briefing sessions on LGR where we brought experts in from paid advisors, etc. But I remember that first session that we was in, and the position that came forward was the position of the leader. Hadn't been through cabinet, Wouldn't it have been great to have a policy panel that sat down and worked through that to get to a position of where we got to? It may have reduced the debate in this chamber and got to a consensus. Who knows? We look at the motion. It creates 2 pilots. It offers an opportunity to develop this and see where it goes forward. And for me, I think that's positive. And why should we be scared of this? I see one side scared of this, the side that's in control at this moment in time. Don't even want to allow it to be debated and try to close the meeting down by not voting for that extension. I think that says it all. 2 points, and I noticed there's been some contention about the mention of a West Bridgford Town Council. And I just want to make this very clear. Under point 3, requested 2 pilot panels, for example, on a West Bridgford Town Council and a parliamentary budget. It's example. It's not stipulating that it would be on the Town Council of West Bridgford. It's not stipulating it would be on the budget. It says, for example, it's not stating that it would be those, because personally, I don't want to have a panel on the West Bridgford Town Council. I agree they should have one. I'm going to say again, if the members of the Labour group wants to have a town council, get the signatory, 7.5% of West Bridgford, get it in and take it to the correct panel. That's the way forward. So I will be supporting this. I ask everyone to support this. It creates a system that trials it to move forward. It's interesting made by cabinet, but you know what? It gives more information and make an educated decision, and then it allows further scrutiny as to if anything has not been put forward. So I will ask people to vote for this today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chewings, and Councillor Sue Mallender.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I may be using the wrong microphone, I don't know. So I've had to swap. Councillor Verdi seems to be suggesting that this motion will result in a committee system, but that isn't what's being suggested. The planning and licensing committees at this council, however, as examples of committees, do provide an opportunity for all councillors serving on them to work together in a way that the scrutiny groups do not. And since we've been informed there's already a situation, because I missed it as well, where scrutiny groups can set up policy panels, then I can't see why, as has been argued opposite, that there would be significant costs, because we can already do this. So we already have a possibility of creating these groups. So I don't see why it would result, for instance, as has been suggested, in the creation of a new officer on what is, to me, as a local government officer that works in local government, on a very high salary. Not me, the suggestion. Mine's much lower than that. There was a comment that a pilot panel on West Bridgford Town Council is pointless. And I agree that it is only an example, not saying that there should be one. However, I do think there should be one. Westbridge, so we were saying it's pointless because West Bridgford Town Council doesn't exist. No, precisely. That's precisely why we do need a discussion on this. And especially at this moment with looming local government reorganisation, which means that looking at a proposal for a West Bridgford Town Council is absolutely imperative. This is precisely the time it's needed. It's not a waste of resources. It's a necessity which affects the future of democracy in non-parished areas. Councillor Williams mentioned that Rushcliffe Nature Conservation Strategy was a very good example of how scrutiny was working. That policy was discussed specifically at Rushcliffe Nature Conservation Strategy Implementation Group meetings, which I attend, where there was a great deal of collaboration and discussion between groups and individuals with a shared interest. And that was why it was such a good policy when it got to scrutiny. We need to discuss things together, not after they've been decided and then scrutinise them. So we'll be supporting this motion in the interests of democracy, collaboration and cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mallender, and Councillor Jonathan Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I think it's really important to re-emphasise some points made by some of my colleagues, which is there is a process by which councillors in this chamber, not from this side, can influence scrutiny and policy, and even from this side, which is the scrutiny process. So I chaired the corporate overview group the final year of the last administration, and we couldn't fit everything on the work programme. With that many scrutiny matrices coming through, there was lots of policy involved there. I remember Councillor Thomas being one example of 2 to 3 policies that were implemented on the back of matrices that came through there. So it does work, the system works. Whereas on the most recent corporate overview group, only one councillor put through a scrutiny matrix, one councillor in this chamber. So I think it shows the system works. It's there. It can work. It did. I can tell you it worked. I chaired it. I mean, it did work. So it can work there. But the problem is these matrices aren't coming through, and policies can be, as I say, developed in those meetings. So you're not trying to reinvent the wheel in terms of trying to bring somewhere else a place where if you can't do it right with the existing system, which is the build for that one, what's to say this will be any better? Apart from, as Councillor Verdi mentioned there, officer stretch the breaking point. I can tell you with LGR, being a member of the cabinet, amount of meetings we have on it, I can only imagine the extra meetings that officers have on it, where we'd rather be having meetings on service delivery and improving the lives of residents. We're not. We're involved in the LGR process, many meetings upon meetings upon meetings. So, as Councillor Verdi said, it's been the advice from officers is they will need to take on extra officers to undertake this role there. The costs are already there in front of you. So there are some councillors in this chamber who keep going about costs, and we should keep them down. We're very surprised they vote for this motion tonight, because this would cost this council more money, and when it's not needed, like I say, there is the process there. So ask council to vote against this and actually use the proper procedure in place. If it's used properly and you're still not getting the outcomes, then it can be reviewed. But as I say, I know from the year that I chaired it, only 3 years ago, it did work when it was done properly, when councils engaged in it, and it's just a shame some councils aren't and opting to try to bring in a new process, which who's to say they're going to use that process if you can't use the current one there already? It could just be a talking shop, or people not participate based on what we're seeing with scrutiny, unfortunately. So I'll be definitely voting against this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeler, and Councillor Cumberlack, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. If I read this right, we are looking to introduce yet another talking shop. We have scrutiny groups currently. How often do they meet? 4 times a year. You'd be putting off your policy development for 3 months. It takes long enough to get a scrutiny item to scrutiny, and you complain about that. I know that. So you are putting in more layers and less efficiency. We've got officers who at the moment are extremely busy dealing with LGR. LGR is going to bring about enormous changes for everyone, whether we're there or not. There's going to be enormous changes. We need to focus on that at the moment. And if you want something new, it's going to be happening within the next 2 years. So why change something now when it's going to be changed again? I mean, I just think it's a crazy notion. We don't have the time. We don't have the money. If you do this, it's going to cost more officer time, and it's going to cost the taxpayer. So I don't understand where you're coming from. I'd also like to say to you, I'm a bit confused with number 4 of your motion. You're requesting a review to review the pilot outcome after 12 months and report findings to Cabinet in autumn 2026. I don't think autumn 2026 the pilot won't have been operating for 12 months. So how can you report before it's finished? So I think there's already an error in the motion, or needs rewording. So I really think you need to go back to the drawing board and think about what it is you're asking for. And I'd like to know why you're asking for it. What is the problem with the system we have at the moment? And bring it back if you think that there is some further mileage in it. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't think there is.
Thank you, Councillor Cumberlack. And
is it point of order?
Oh,
Yes, point of order.
Oh, right.
I move that we move to the vote, please.
We've only got 2 more speakers, but what's the rule on that? We'll just check. So thank you. Well, just checking procedure. You're moving to go to the vote. Do you have a seconder for that? Councillor Chewing seconded. We need to take a vote. So we need to take a vote, please. Are we all wanting to go to the vote on this item? Please show.
Yeah.
Okay. Those against? Twenty-one. So thank you for proposing that, but it's fallen, and we'll just go to our final couple of speakers. Next name on the list is Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I got slightly confused about the procedure. The reason we took so long is because there seemed to have been a suggestion that somebody said it wasn't a valid motion, which certainly I'd never said. I didn't think it was a valid motion. Anyway, we are here discussing it, and I think that Councillor Verdi really put all the points very eloquently, some of which I can only repeat, because I do view this very much as a duplication of the functions that's already been performed in scrutiny. We already have that scrutiny function, and when Councillor Walker was introducing it, she talked about scrutiny reviewing the decisions after they've been made, but, and I've always made this very clear over many years, that scrutiny is an important process because it also includes policy development role as well. And in fact, Councillor Williams made that point. But that policy development role is there and can be used at any time. We also have the problem that, in fact, Councillor Chewings, I don't know if he meant what he said this will create a system. It will. It'll create a new system of administration and bureaucracy, because as Councillor Verdi quite rightly pointed out, it will, and in fact, Councillor Walker said the costs will be modest and largely absorbed within existing resources, but it won't, because it will require a new officer. It will require all the admin that goes with that, because there is a distinction, and I'm grateful for the comments made about policy panel that took place previously, but they were part of the existing system. So scrutiny panels can set up policy panels. Cabinet can set up policy panels. They're part of the existing system. This would create a new system. And so it's very difficult to see how that could not be a duplication of the work that we undertake at the moment. Councillor Williams also mentioned how few items have been actually brought forward in scrutiny. It's incumbent upon members of the scrutiny group, well, it doesn't have to be members of scrutiny groups, anybody, to propose a matrix and to bring forward items for scrutiny, and that can happen at absolutely any time. So we have, as I say, we have this process, and to then want to set up a system which, as has been mentioned before, is only going to exist for less than 2 years. It's time is taken by officers at the moment and will be taken because, okay, you could, I know somebody might argue and say, oh, well, the submission for LGR is going in tomorrow, so that's the end of that. Well, it isn't, because that's just the start of a lot of extra work, because there'll be a lot of public consultation, there will be a lot of transitional work to take place. So that's why this will be a duplication and extra work. And who knows whether this function will still exist when new councils come into place. It may not. So the bureaucracy that's involved, I'm not sure what it's going to achieve, because
no, let's just carry on. We'll come to it in a moment. Carry on, Councillor.
I haven't listened to Radio 4 for a long time. Yeah.
Just carry on, Councillor.
But 30 seconds.
Oh, right. Well, I won't take 30 seconds. As I say, it's important that we maintain this council as an efficient council, and we only discuss things once. We don't need to discuss things twice. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Now, Councillor Billen, you reserved your right to speak as a seconder of this. Would you like to to speak?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I agree to support this motion because I believe it goes to the heart of democracy. This is not about duplicating anything. This is about informing decision. What's wrong with having a plurality of voices in the room to inform the decision makers? This is not trying to do away with cabinet point forward policies, finished policies. This is about informing that policy decision making process. I'm not going to attempt to cover everything that everybody said. I've written lots of things down. I just suggest that we move to the vote, please. And I would also call for a recorded vote.
Thank you, Councillor Billen. Now, Councillor Walker, you have your opportunity now.
I have nothing more to say. We'll just go to the vote.
Okay, righty-ho. Thank you.
We've been asked for a recorded vote.
We've been asked for a recorded vote, so
Do we have 4?
have we got the 4 hands?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay, so it will be a recorded vote. Righty-ho, so Deputy Monitoring Officer.
Okay, Councillor Barney,
Against.
Councillor Billen,
4.
Councillor Birch,
4.
Councillor Bird, Councillor Brennan, against, Councillor Brown, Councillor Butler,
Against.
Councillor Calvert,
4.
Councillor Chaplin, 4. Councillor Chewings,
4.
Councillor Clark, Councillor Edivine,
Against.
Councillor Ellis,
Against.
Councillor Fletcher, Councillor Gaunt,
4.
Councillor Georgiou, against, Councillor Gowland, Councillor Grocott,
4.
Councillor Inglis,
4. Sorry. I'm looking at 4 on it. Against.
Councillor Richard Mallender, Councillor Richard Mallender, Councillor Sue Mallender, 4. Councillor Mason, Councillor Matthews,
Against.
Councillor Om,
Against.
Councillor Perek,
Against.
Councillor Phillips,
4.
Councillor Plant, Councillor Polenta, Councillor Regan, Councillor Sims,
Against.
Councillor Solomon, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Upton, Councillor Verdi,
Against.
Councillor Jen Walker, Councillor Leslie Way, 4. Councillor Wells, Councillor Wheeler, Councillor Williams,
Against.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And we'll get 20 against. So the motion is carried.
No.
Sorry, can I just clarify, Councillor Inglis, you changed your vote. When I asked you for your vote, you said that you were for. Can you just clarify, please?
Yeah, certainly can. That's my mistake. It's against.
It's against. Thank you for clarifying.
Right, colleagues, for the record, the votes were 24 and 21 against. So the motion falls. Right, we've run out of time. The outstanding items on the agenda will carry forward to the next meeting.
Yeah, next meeting.
Yes, and the next full council meeting. So it's been a long evening. Thank you very much.
Questions. They'll get answered.
Oh,
in
yes,
writing.
the questions will be answered in writing. Of course you can. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So a question will be responded. Don't go yet. So we've had a long evening. Thank you. Can I thank you for your contributions and your attention, and it's been a long evening. Thank you for everything. It's been a bit complicated with procedures, and I hope you understand the reasons why. We have to be right. Can I wish everyone a safe journey home, and also, because this is the final meeting before Christmas, I do wish everyone a happy Christmas and best wishes for the new year. So thank you and good night.